This is the Sons of UCF podcast, your place for UCF sports talk year-round. Now, here is Adam and Mike.
You are listening live to the 115th edition of the Sons of UCF show. My name is Adam, and I've got my good friend, Mr. UCF Mike, with me as always. Mike, welcome into the 115th edition of the show. How are you?
I'm back, man. It's something you can't get rid of. 115 times hitting you again, and we're getting better hopefully each week.
Wow. All right, Mike came out of the gate firing here. Let's a lot to fire about. Let's preview what's coming up in the show, Mike. We'll do Cow of the Week as always. We've got a new game, kind of a Name That Night, a ripoff of that Name That Tune game from back in the day. So we'll do Name That Night. We'll run through all the headlines, a lot of stuff happening in and around the football program. Basketball's been on a bit of a hiatus. We'll touch on that. And then stick around. We have a really good conversation with a former UCF Knight receiver, Jacob Harris, who just obviously left the school and is preparing for the draft. He takes us through his time at UCF and a little bit about the 2020 season overall. So stick around. I think you guys will enjoy that Jacob Harris conversation. The Sons of UCF interviews are back, baby. We're back.
That's right. It's been a little while now since during football season we take a break from the interviews, but I think that's one of the things we do best around here is get in touch with these guys that, well, he just left the program, but sometimes we go back in time and get some older guys and let the fans get to see a different side of them too.
Yeah, I think it was fun. We had some good times. We dish on some Heupel stuff, which I thought was kind of fun. We get some nicknames. We learn a lot. So stick around for that conversation. But while we're recording this, Mike, the college football season is coming to an end. I know some people had ended on December 22nd when the Knights no-showed against the BYU Cougars, but the supposed last game of the season is being played now, Mike, which means college football is officially coming to an end. We made it through a season, although it had a lot of ups and downs. Obviously, UCF experienced a lot of those ups and downs, Mike, and those ups and downs have carried a little bit into the offseason. So let's talk a little bit about what's been going on lately with the football program. I think let's start with this first things first. I think we anticipated, Mike, that we'd see some changes to the coaching staff this offseason, but it wasn't like this. I don't think we anticipated seeing the changes we've seen so far, losing running back coach Anthony Tucker. Finally, a replacement was named for him. We'll get into that in a second, Mike. I think we thought we'd see some big changes on defense, and turns out we were dead wrong. Major kudos to the Orlando Sentinel for unearthing the contract, Mike. Turns out in February of 2020, UCF signed Randy Shannon to a 2-year extension, including this past football season and the upcoming season. So Randy signed through January of 2022, Mike. So for all of us who thought maybe Randy was on his way out, turns out that's not the case. And for one reason, his $1 million salary remains. And if we fire him without cause before the end of the contract, we owe him 100% of the contract, which means we owe him $2 million, Mike. So sell me on why Randy Shannon's a good idea again, because we're stuck with him for a year.
I opened the show by saying you can't get rid of me, you can't get rid of us. We can't get rid of Randy. Why is it a good idea? I mean, he's the best recruiter we have, so we got that going for us. But you can't fire him. You can't fire him for cause. Would a cause being the defense just is not good? Is that a cause? Saying that his job is defensive coordinator? I guess that doesn't qualify.
I like where your head's at there, but no, I think cause means he's done something of harm to the program, a tawdry affair, some sort of recruiting violation, something that's essentially is of a rule-breaking variety, from what I understand.
Right. It's not actually not coordinating
performance.
The defense
Yeah, performance is not considered a cause, although it's a really good argument that it could be.
Randy gets a lot of grief. Nobody was saying anything bad about him in 2018. I don't remember. When we won every single game in the regular season. The last couple of years have not been great. This year in particular, we did lose half the defense on one unfortunate night with that big incident they had with the police. And we had to play a lot of young guys. But you know what? That's on him too, because he should be recruiting guys to play defense and have depth there by now. He's going into year 4. He should already have a group of guys ready to step in, next man up. And that wasn't the case this year. So the guys came in, and actually they played well for the first couple of games when they had to replace the starters. But towards the end of the year, it looked pretty porous out there on defense. And that's on him, and he's got to get these guys ready to play, and hopefully now he's got to reload us for next season, and he's got to get the defense straightened out, or else we're going to be in for another long season.
Yeah, pros and cons, right? So, so let's try the pros first. I'll see what I'll reach. You tell me if you buy any of these, Mike. So, first pro, potentially continuity, right? You stick with the same staff, the same voice, the same kind of rhythms. Obviously, when a new staff comes in and a new vision, maybe a new formation, it could be some learning curve stuff. So you stay with the same staff, same voice, all that stuff. Although one could argue maybe, with all the new guys, that doesn't really matter very much. So, that's one option. Obviously, you mentioned it. He is a guy who recruits the Miami area pretty well. He is somebody is connected. He's got a name that people know. Garner some respect, I think, sometimes when he goes around schools. So will he continue to be a really solid recruiter for us? I'd like to see him recruit some on offense every now and again, but what are you going to do? And so you've got that. And see, to your point, 2018, 2019, the defenses were okay. I mean, we're not talking Tyson Summers level defenses here, but they were solid defenses in those years. And 2020 certainly was a huge regression. But his track record prior was okay. It was serviceable. I don't think we were all harping and moaning on Randy needs to go. Second half, Randy was born, right? We had all that good stuff. The cons, obviously, we don't see a lot of in-game adjustments. You don't ever hear or see Randy Shannon. Not a lot of fire. You don't know what he's about. Some of his substitution patterns, some of his play calling seems a little suspect. And obviously, we had a defense that was woefully underprepared. And Mike, you said that. It's kind of, is it on him to get these young guys ready? Yes, it's unfortunate that half the team got kind of wiped away in one fell swoop. But isn't it his job, his staff's job, to get these young guys ready to play, and just didn't look like they were ready to play in certain points of time? Now, I will say the defense, after the Memphis game, they improved at the Houston game, and there were some bright spots there. But ultimately, it's Randy's job to get these guys coached up. So those are the pros and cons. Mike, do you buy any of those?
Continuity I can go with. That's always a good thing. You don't want to be changing defensive systems every year, every few years. Plus, the players that are here now were recruited to play in this system. So if you run a 4-3 or if you run a 3-4, whatever defense you're accustomed to running, you recruit guys for that system. And I assume he's been doing that. So if you were to switch the defense now, I guess, would we even have the personnel to align with that kind of defense? That would be one issue. The way we finished the season, we talked about how these guys did play well in those last couple games, or the first couple games after the incident. But let's remember, the Houston game, they were playing without their best wide receiver who got hurt in the first couple plays of that game, which had to hurt them immensely. And then what was it, the Temple game? Was it the Temple game where they were missing like half their team?
Yes.
Right? They were down to like their third quarterback, and they only dressed like 40 guys or something for that game. So if we were to have a bad defensive performance that day, that would have told a lot. And then, we gave up a lot of points against the Cows, and then we saw what happened in the BYU game. It just looked completely lost out there. So continuity is one thing. I can go with that. That was always the argument when O'Leary was here, at least. The system was in place, and yes, we had bad years every once in a while, but he always bounced back with a solid year. It was kind of an up and down thing. So maybe Randy can pull the same thing. Now he's been down for this year. He can pull us back up and have a good year next year.
Well, and also now we know the contract length. Previously I think a lot of us have been guessing, but Mike, this is curious. I'd love to know, and I don't think it was included. Whose idea was this contract extension? Was this Randy or Randy's agent coming and saying, "Hey guys, you know what? If Randy's going to walk if you guys don't make him a commitment here." Was this Danny White saying, "Hey, Randy's done such a great job. We need to lock him up"? Was this Heupel going to Danny and saying, "Hey, I can't lose this guy on my staff. Like, let's lock him up. Let's make sure we keep him around"? I'd love to know sort of how this got initiated, and really who's calling the shots in this one. Because again, we'd all, I think it's pretty common knowledge, right? Randy and Josh were kind of hired at the same time by Danny White, and I think Josh essentially did a cursory, sign off, if you will, probably on Shannon. But I'd love to know how this all started and who initiated it and who had to ultimately sign off on it. Does White go to Heupel and go, "Hey, good news, I'm gonna re-sign Randy for a couple of years," and can Hype be like, "Nah, I'm all set, never mind"? Or does he have any veto power? I mean, that's going to be a fascinating story one day whenever that one can get told.
It's hard to know how much Heupel actually has, how much decision-making he has in this, or if it's all Danny White. When does Heupel's contract expire? After he's got 1 more year or 2 more years?
I think he's up until 24 at this point. I think he's the 2024 contract.
All right, so I was going to say if they extended Randy to match Heupel's length, but that's not the case. He's only got 1 more. And it's interesting now, is he going to go into this year as a lame duck? Or will there be another secret extension that we're not going to hear about until the end of the season and say, hey, we got him for another 2 years? I don't know, and I don't know if we're ever going to find out. Obviously, UCF likes to keep secrets. They kept this secret again on us for this whole season. They know everybody was whispering about Randy's job. Why not leak something out during the season? Hey, he's signed for another 2 years to shut everybody up. They never did that. These contracts are they're funny. College football coaches, they come and go. They get out of contracts all the time. So nothing's set in stone. He can decide to leave tomorrow and go to another job. If somebody offered him something, he could get out of here. Yeah. But we can't get rid of him. So it's kind of a weird thing. It's like for the longest time, players couldn't leave without having to sit out a year. Now that's all changing. So maybe they're going to start reworking these contracts to where schools can. I guess it's all in the buyouts, right? And that's worked in there at the beginning.
Well, plus, I believe he's still the highest paid Group of 5 coordinator. I don't know. I don't think anyone's eclipsed that yet, but I believe he's still the top dog coordinator-wise, which seems kind of crazy to think about. You saw a guy like Marcus Freeman leave Cincinnati, their D coordinator, to go to Notre Dame. You wonder what that guy would have gotten paid with his success. But yeah, 1 more year of Randy, and we'll see kind of to your point how it goes. It's a lame duck season. Will they sign another extension? Can we continue to afford to pay that amount? And is this one of those deals where, we know Heupel's buyout, I believe. Now, again, maybe this is one of those deals where, someone needs to go get the Heupel contract from the same Freedom of Information Act that we got the Shannon contract, because I wonder what Heupel's buyout is at the end of the year. Maybe this is the final year for both of them, right? And what Danny's basically saying is if Josh doesn't perform, Randy will expire, he'll cut Josh loose, and a new guy comes in and gets to make those decisions. I don't know, but we'll see how all these contracts work out. But ultimately, Mike, I think we thought there'd be a lot of change on the defensive staff. So far as we know, no change on the defensive staff, but the offensive staff has made at least one change that we can now talk about. So we knew Anthony Tucker, who was the co-offensive coordinator and running back coach. He left to go to Utah State. And we learned this past week, Mike, that a guy by the name of Matt Merritt has been hired as the new running back coach. If you're not familiar with Matt Merritt, don't be alarmed. Nobody really was. He's been coaching running backs at James Madison University. Prior to that, spent some time at Elon. Prior to that, he was an assistant RB coach at the Ohio State University, where he helped work with guys like Zeke Elliott and Carlos Hyde in 2019. So I don't believe James Madison played in 2020, so I think they took that year off, so he hasn't necessarily coached a game, if you will. In 2019, he had 4 backs, basically had 3,200 rushing yards and 39 TDs. One of those guys was former UCF Knight Jawan Hamilton, so a weird UCF tie. Mike, I'm sure you were like I when you heard the news that Matt Merritt was our new running back coach. You were probably pretty pumped up too, right?
Yeah, I follow James Madison football very closely, as you know.
Yes.
Assistant coaches come and go. I've said it 1,000 times. Who knows what kind of ties this guy's had to Heupel. I imagine Heupel doesn't sound like has worked with him before. You just went over his resume. He's been at Ohio State and a couple other places. Heupel hasn't been at any of those places. Maybe where did this guy play college football? Was it at Oklahoma too, or no?
I don't believe so. Let me see if I can get all that for you. Yeah, I don't believe it's Oklahoma though.
So it's interesting where Heupel pulled this guy out of. Is it just Heupel knowing this guy's reputation and knowing what he's like and his type of coaching? You would think there's got to be some kind of connection there. Is he connected to maybe one of these other guys like Golesh or one of the other guys on the staff that know him well and vouch for him? But the system he runs seems to be a multi-back system, which is pretty commonplace now in college football. So he's got a big stable of backs now coming back for us and should be able to do some nice things. You talked about the running backs he worked with at Ohio State, some big-time names there. So at least that he's worked with some high-caliber running backs in college football so far.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, right? Because this is we talked about this on the show last week. I asked you which position group you're more concerned about, if it was going to be the running backs and the receivers. You said receivers for kind of obvious reasons from a just the cupboard is bare situation. But the running back room, it's a young room, right? Obviously, we have Bentavious Thompson, who's been around for a while, has been in the system for a while. We have Damaris Good, Johnny Richardson, who played last year. We have Anthony Williams coming in. We have RJ Harvey as a transfer. So a lot of guys who haven't played a ton of snaps on the field in real time. And so, a young group, and there must be something in Merritt's background that attracted Heupel to him, either his ability maybe to coach up young players, maybe his familiarity with the system he ran. I'm looking at his bio here. He spent a lot of time in Ohio, essentially, Mike. He was he's a running backs coach for a while. He was an assistant coach at Capital University where he played, so he did not go to Oklahoma. So I can't see a definitive tie here right off the bat, but something attracted Heupel to him. So interesting to see kind of how he meshes with the group. Looks like a younger guy, and I'm not sure that that's important, right? But a young guy. So maybe somebody's got some energy, some spark, something that can help us from that perspective. You got to wonder how well he knows the area, Mike, from a recruiting perspective. So an interesting hire. Still no real announcement. Merritt has updated his Twitter bio to indicate he's the new running backs coach. Nothing really from UCF on this yet. He's not been made available for anything. I don't think Heupel's made any statements about it. So the UCF era of mystery continues. But Matt Merritt, welcome to Orlando, my friend.
Well, not a Florida guy, not a UCF guy like we've been clamoring for. Maybe Heupel thought it was supposed to be Mike Merritt, the ex-tight end, and
Maybe.
saw his name and hired the wrong guy. I'm sure it's not the case. But hopefully he's got some kind of connections, is able to recruit and bring something to the table. It's just time will tell, I guess, with these guys. We don't know anything about them, and we're going to all learn together.
Well, maybe he's a darn good coach. Who knows? We can only hope that'll work out. Another name, though, that's been kind of bandied about this week, Mike, is receivers coach Darrell Wyatt. His name popped up in the rumor mill as potentially as a candidate for the same position at Auburn. Auburn recently hired Brian Harsin from Boise State as their head coach, and so he's got a staff to fill. Wyatt's name has been mentioned. There's some speculation that it's probably pretty close to being a done deal, but it still hasn't been signed yet, or at least hasn't been officially announced yet, Mike. So another potential offensive continuity change in receivers coach Darrell Wyatt, which comes at an interesting time, Mike, because, again, we talked about this last week. The receiver room is getting a little bare and is also very young. What impact do you think losing Wyatt might have on the receiving corps for UCF?
Well, I mean, the impact we're going to have on the receiving corps is all the guys we just lost. Marlon Williams and Trey Nixon and Jacob Harris and now Stretch Cradle. I mean, so to say it's on the coach, I don't know. Maybe it's just on losing all the talent, and maybe that's why he's entertaining leaving. Maybe he knows now the cupboard is bare, and he wants to get out of here while his reputation's still high. Or maybe we just have another a crop of receivers ready to take over, and it won't make a difference who the receiving coach is. Is it really that big of a deal? Probably not. Wyatt's not calling plays. What are you talking about? Running the drills with the receivers? I got to figure there's not much. It all depends on how hard these guys work. And if he's a hard worker, we got to find somebody else that can recruit, that can work just as hard. And to me, recruiting. Get somebody that can recruit and get some talent into this football program.
Well, what's interesting is obviously Heupel, an offensive guy, the head coach, Shannon sort of the head coach of the defense. If you look at where we were 2 years ago, if this Wyatt stuff holds to be true, Mike, 80% of Heupel's offensive staff will have turned over in these past 2 seasons. The only holdover would be Glenn Ellerby at the O-line position. Tucker's obviously gone. Jeff Lebby's gone. John Cooper left. And now if Wyatt leaves, that would be 4 guys gone from the staff, replaced by Merritt, Alex Golesh, Joey Halsley, and whoever comes in at receiver. Where Randy's side of the ball hasn't had any turnover. Right? We've had the same guys: Burnham, Martinez, Bell, Randy. So we've had the same guys on that side of the ball. So interesting to see that the turnover piece. It's kind of the deal in college football, right? Particularly when you're a quote unquote lowly Group of 5 school. These guys can come in and offer you an extra $200K a year at your position, and why wouldn't you take that kind of stuff? So Heupel could be looking at another significant year of turnover. Last year, obviously, we lost Lebby, and Cooper, which were huge. This year, 2 more folks could be leaving the staff. So we'll see where he goes with that hire, if he has to indeed make that hire, because obviously receiving is going to be a huge part of kind of our conversation in a few minutes about transfers and whatnot. But that's going to be a key position for UCF next year.
Well, when you have such a successful offense like we've had the last couple of years, of course, other teams are going to want to come in and poach guys that have worked in that offense. If they can steal a running backs coach or a wide receiver coach or an offensive coordinator from an offense that puts up 50 points a game, 25 points a game, that's what they're going to do. Whether or not those guys have a huge role in the offense or not, or they're not calling plays, it doesn't matter. They have been in the system. They want to know, what is UCF doing on offense to put up all these points? And if they can have one guy in their program that can offer some insight, then that's a reason they go after these guys. And now on the flip side, UCF's defense hasn't really impressed anybody the last couple of years. So the guys
we're all set over there. Yeah.
Are not they're not as attractive to other schools right now. So maybe that's why they haven't left.
That's fair.
They haven't been presented with other opportunities. Other schools are going to come and they're going to be able to pay more money, and money is a huge factor in this. And especially for UCF coming into this year where they didn't have very many fans at the games this past year because of COVID. They didn't make as much money this past year where we lost a lot of money this past season playing the games we did in front of the crowds we did. Salaries play a big part in this, and maybe that's why we're replacing guys with guys coming from James Madison and not replacing them with guys that you may have heard of or Heupel. Maybe that is not his first choice, but that's what we can afford right now.
Yeah, I'm sure, factoring in the money element of it, I'm sure whatever the pay bump is from James Madison's running back spot to UCF's is probably one UCF can afford. But we'll see where we go if the receiver hire needs to be made. To your point, obviously, I think we said the same thing last week. We'll say it again. I feel like one of the top two things you want to look at is, just being able to recruit the state of Florida. Having some ties to Florida would be really, really helpful. Maybe even have some ties to UCF. I mean, again, we keep talking about some of those guys that are out there, Hinshaw, Schneider, guys like that who, do they bring something to the program that we can leverage? So can they recruit? And then B, I'd love to find somebody with a little bit of different of an offensive philosophy that Heupel's willing to sit down and listen to, maybe try some new things schematically. I don't know if he'll have the open mind for that, but it would be great to see if he could do that. So we'll stay tuned. We'll see. The Wyatt hire could happen any moment, right? It could be happening while you and I talk, for all we know, Mike. So we'll keep you posted there. But I did want to bring this to you as well, Mike. I know you and I talked about it quickly before we started recording. Kudos again to the Orlando Sentinel. They had a kind of a one-on-one print interview with Danny White, and he made some interesting comments, Mike, that I'm not sure how much publicity some of it got, because a lot of the conversation was centered around the college football playoff. That was kind of the backdrop of the article and what Danny's position was on Cincinnati and some of these schools claiming. But some other questions were asked, Mike, and I want to bring some of these to you to kind of get your perspective on it. So the question was asked of Danny White: how would you assess the season? He opened by saying, "I think it was a miracle that we played the 9 games that were scheduled. It's a testament to our sports staff, our coaches, and our players." He goes on for a few minutes, and then he says this, and these are 2 sentences back to back. So I don't want to make them seem like he's putting these together, but these are the 2 sentences back to back. He said, "For us, we made it through, but it wasn't without a whole lot of challenges with opt-outs and quarantines and all sorts of stuff that made it difficult, which was frustrating with the branding we've built and the amount of success we've had." Mike, what do you make of that line? Frustrating with the branding we've built and the amount of success that we've had.
Ooh, is that kind of a first warning of a hot seat now for Heupel?
I don't know. I mean, let's do reckless speculation, Mike. You and I have talked about, obviously Danny has a plan and a trajectory for the program, and the word frustrating, I don't know if he's referring to losing some guys, frustrating to the season, but that word certainly does have a buzz to it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Especially coming off what he built this brand off of that 2017 season, claiming the national championship, got so much publicity off of that. And then we entered the next year with another perfect season, regular season, and back into a New Year's Six game. But now the last 2 years, not even qualifying for a championship game, he's got to be frustrated. I know we're all frustrated, especially in a conference like this where we feel like we should be at least in the championship game every other year at least. And now it's going to be 3 years now, this year coming up. If we don't get in, that'll be our longest drought in basically over a decade. So he's got to be frustrated for sure, especially with the hype coming in this year. We all picked them to go undefeated, but the people that covered this conference, most of them had us at least in the top 2 in this conference. and we didn't. What did we finish? Fourth in this conference. He's got to be frustrated with that, and we're losing all the publicity that Cincinnati got this year. That could have been us. It should have been us. Memphis got it all last year for going to the New Year's Six game. We didn't get that. He's losing money. Those New Year's Six games, say what you want about them, but they make this school a lot of money, and we're not in it. That's where it hurts Danny White. And if he feels like the brand is losing a little bit of cachet now over these last couple of years, then he has every right to be upset, because we were right up there. And now if we're falling back a little bit, he's got to start considering how do we get back on top.
Well, then the next question was a question about looking back at the season through the pandemic. So the question was, do you look back at last season through the lens of a pandemic? And here's again, this is the quote. So this is where Danny took this. I think it's unintelligent not to at least recognize that we're in a pandemic. We haven't talked about this publicly, but we're not making excuses. But at the start of the season, the 11 players that were supposed to start on defense, 9 of them didn't play in that bowl game. It was 7 for the last couple of regular season games, but we had 2 more opt-outs to go from 7 to 9 for the bowl game. So we can't ignore the fact from a personnel standpoint, we're extremely depleted. To start the season, we were depleted. I think we had 12 opt-outs for COVID before fall camp, and several of them were defensive starters. But learning as much as we can from it. So again, the first time, the question wasn't even really about, hey, talk about your opt-outs, talk about anything, and that's where Danny took it. Now again, I'm not quite. This is the way the article is written, so I don't want to. I don't know if there's anything that was moved around or taken out of context. But he starts off, Mike, kind of really going to the excuse machine. I don't mean that to be negative, because those are true things. Those things happen, but you don't really hear a lot of that from Danny White. But he kind of really started off with, hey, let's look at all this. Do you read that as, is that justification for the Randy Shannon news? Like, how do you read sort of the offering of some excuses for what happened?
It could be saying, this is why we're not getting rid of Randy, because it wasn't completely his fault. The opt-outs at the beginning of the year, we kind of glossed over it a little bit, especially us saying, yeah, we lost some depth on the defense, but we still have these guys that should be able to take care of business. We should still have one of our best defenses of all time here. And then when you lose the other starters that we did, not having that depth really that's where you saw it hurt us the most. So I guess you can view it as an excuse, but they're facts. Mm-hmm. We were missing a lot of guys. Yep. When the season ended last year, we thought we had a certain roster. And then by the time the season ended this year, it was completely different. Coming into the year, we had a whole different idea of what our defense would look like than when it came to an end. And I mean, that makes a big difference. When you even call it an excuse or call it a fact, call it whatever you want. That's just the way things were in 2020.
Well, the next question was there a sense of relief following the bowl game that you made it through an entire season without interruption due to COVID? And this is how he starts the answer. I was disappointed in the outcome of the bowl game, certainly. I felt that sense of relief you're asking about probably once I got confirmation from a COVID perspective that we were good to go to play the game, which had been earlier in the day. We got the call from the conference office that we're cleared from doctors, and that's when I was like, okay, we're going to play our 10th game, and we're going to play it. Interesting. So 2 things. One, he kind of offered his disappointment in the outcome of the bowl game, which, again, Danny doesn't typically comment on wins and losses per se. But then 2, he makes it seem as though perhaps there was a chance leading up into the game day that maybe we weren't even taking the field, Mike, which I know we kind of theorized about. I know there's kind of always, that looming concept out there, but do you take this as maybe confirmation that up until kickoff there was some concern that maybe the game wouldn't even go on?
I was at the game, and I'm still not sure if we actually showed up to that game.
I saw guys in uniforms. I'm not sure what they were doing, though.
It was a bad one, man. So who knows what the team was going through that week. It was a tricky year. I'll give them that. We were one of the few schools that didn't have any games canceled. Pretty much, I don't know what the percentages were, but almost every school had at least one game postponed, canceled, had to make it up somewhere down the line, and we didn't have any of that. So I guess we were pretty lucky in that case. But going into that last game, maybe there were some question marks there, and maybe guys didn't get to prepare for the game as much as they would have liked to because of that. So, I mean, looking back on it now, I would kind of wish we didn't even play the way it ended. We may have been better off going into the offseason coming off the win off against the Cows instead of the ugly loss in the bowl. But at least it was fun for us as fans to go hang out. But other than that, crappy way to end the year.
The last thing, really, he was asked about spring football and sort of what that looks like. Will it be on time? Will it be a delay? Didn't really answer the question except to the very end. He said, spring ball is important for us and off-season conditioning is important. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're starting the process to figure that out now. So obviously a lot of us are kind of turning our attention to the calendar, and the next thing on the calendar would be spring ball sometime in that March, April timeframe. So it looks like no update yet from Danny White on that, Mike. So let me do reckless speculation. Do you read anything in there as, like you said earlier, does Josh Heupel have the seat heater on in whatever luxury vehicle he's driving to work every day these days, Mike? Do you read that as Danny putting a little bit of flame out there just to see either maybe if Heupel picks it up through the media or, maybe just giving his true thoughts?
No, I don't think even if it did seem that way, I don't think he's actually doing it to put heat on Heupel. I don't see how that would help Heupel's situation at all. The heat's going to come from the fans anyway. If he has another poor season, people are going to be calling for his head. They're doing it now. 3 seasons in. So he has another 4-loss season, forget it. I don't know if he can survive it just from the fan perspective. But then again, it all comes down to money. And if we are not going to be able to hire another head coach and pay him what we need to pay him, or pay a coach that is worthy of that job, we can replace Heupel, but who are we going to replace him with? The head coach from James Madison, or
Is he available? I don't know. Let me do some research.
Else.
Yeah.
So I don't think Danny's putting the hot seat on him. That's going to just come naturally. But you can tell he's not happy with the results, and he shouldn't be.
Yeah, I read this as basically, hey, 2020 sucked. It's not what we wanted, but look, we had all these things going in and around, the season that basically I feel like he's saying to everybody, this year's a mulligan. Would have liked to have played better, would have liked to have done a bunch of things, but there's so many unique circumstances. This year's a mulligan. The only comment he made, Mike, that I key on, and maybe, again, I'm reading way too much into nothing, but hey, what else am I going to talk about for 2 hours a week, is the comment that he's frustrated. It was frustrating with the branding we've built. That leads me to believe that Danny White knows that he's got to keep the trajectory arrow pointing upward if he wants to accomplish his goals at UCF, which I assume is getting to a Power 5 conference, obviously making UCF into a powerhouse sports program. He knows that he's got to keep that branding arrow pointing up. I kind of read that as to we can't take another year like this. Like we can't keep taking, hits like this now where, this will be the, second straight year that we have no standing in any sort of conversation about playoffs, about anything. So that's the only comment that I read that kind of strikes me as Danny maybe letting his guard down a little bit and saying that, we all know how important the brand is to Danny. And he's obviously recognizing that it could go the other way if he's not careful.
Well, he knows his UCF history because in 2013, we were at the top of the G5s when we beat Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl. And we had all the momentum in the world. The branding was getting strong there. We had already beat Georgia in the Liberty Bowl a few years before that. And all that was gone in 2 years. In 2015, we didn't win a game. So he knows that it's not forever. We have a window here. We had that window open in 2017 with the perfect season. How much longer is it going to stay open? If we have 3-4 years without being in the conversation at all, we're out of it by mid-October every year. That is going to pay its toll long-term on the football program. And the brand is going to start losing some cachet, and he knows it. So there's a little bit to that. And Danny White is a businessman. First thing first, he needs to make money. He needs to sell tickets. That's his main job, is bring money into the school. So he's been great at it so far, but he can only do so much. If the team's not winning, he can't sell as many tickets.
I agree, Mike. We also are big on our brand. We also need to make money, which is why we're going to take a quick break right here. Commercial time, friends. Listen to this whole thing, and as soon as it's over, you'll hear our wonderful voices again. Don't move anywhere, or don't go anywhere, or don't move anywhere. You know what I mean. Commercial. All right, Mike, back from the commercial, and I want to update something we were just literally recording about here while we were in that break. A website called footballscoop.com, which has actually been pretty on point with a lot of different rumors and conversations, has an article that posted today, and it's referring to both UCF and the Cows having openings. And I'll read from it. It says, in Orlando, Josh Heupel needs a replacement for Daryl Wyatt, who abruptly left the program late last week and had an empty office by the weekend, several sources told Football Scoop. Then he goes on to talk about who Wyatt coached at. Wyatt has emerged as a potential candidate to join new Auburn coach Brian Harson's staff, according to sources. So this makes it seem like Wyatt's already gone, office empty, and moving out. Then the next line, Auburn assistant Cody Burns, a former Tigers player, has emerged as the target to replace Wyatt at UCF. Multiple sources confirmed to Football Scoop on Sunday Burns had quickly emerged as a candidate to join the up-tempo, high-scoring Knights offense orchestrated by Heupel and rising young offensive coordinator Alex Golesh. I'm not sure if I agree with that. Burns was part of Auburn's national championship team, was there for 6 seasons on the staff, including co-OC and most recently passing game coordinator. So if this is to be believed, we're essentially trading Daryl Wyatt for Cody Burns and a staff swap, Mike. And again, I don't know how much this is true. Football Scoop has actually been pretty on point with some stuff here. So this is basically saying Daryl Wyatt gone, Cody Burns has emerged as the UCF's target from, I guess, went to Auburn, so he kind of knows the Southeast. Mike, I don't know. That's not really Florida, but it's closer than James Madison, I think.
Yeah, an interesting trade, if it's true. An Alabama pipeline, possibly. And we know Auburn is one of those, they recruit everywhere in the Southeast, so I'm sure he's had some connections to Florida at some point. Interesting, but like I said, it's probably more about money than anything. And has this guy worked out with Heupel before? It doesn't sound like that either. So Heupel is just plucking guys out of nowhere, thin air, not guys that he has any ties with.
That word was plucking, in case you guys were curious, but they're plucking guys. Go ahead, Mike.
I mean, I don't know what Heupel's process is in finding these replacements, but it doesn't seem to be prior history with working with these guys before. So, I mean, it is what it is. Wide receiver coach. Who knows? So he's coming from a big time school. Do people like this now better that he's coming from Auburn than Merritt, who's coming from James Madison? Is this a big deal? The other one wasn't a big deal. I don't know if it really makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Looking at some of his resume, he obviously worked under Malzahn, so he would have been on staff for the Peach Bowl loss. Again, another young kid. He's only, looking at his pictures, he looks like he's all like 30 years old. So we'll see. You got to do the 6 degrees of separation on these things. I don't know who knows him, right? Does Golesh know him from someplace? Does Ellerby know this guy from somewhere? Did him and Halsey at a 7-on-7 camp at some point, right? I guess you don't know. So stay tuned. It looks like the coaching web is turning, and we'll see what kind of coach we potentially could get if indeed Daryl Wyatt is gone. Cody Burns, interesting name, young guy, got an Auburn tie, knows Cam Newton. Maybe he's a young kid who can get some kids excited, bring some youth to the staff, but remains to be seen, Mike. But let's talk a few other things that have taken place over the last couple of times since you and I have spoken. So the transfer portal giveth and the transfer portal taketh away. Obviously, we knew about the opt-outs. We talked to Jacob Harris in a few minutes about his decision to opt out, or I guess not return. Opt-out's not the right word. But we did have 2 guys, Mike, who have officially now entered the transfer portal. Both of them are sort of bigger names. One really surprising. Let's start with the one that's probably less surprising. Brandon Moore, Bam Moore, a senior, graduating senior, has entered his name into the transfer portal. You remember Brandon got hurt in the opening game of the 2019 season against FAMU, did not play all of 2019, did not play all of 2020. Mike, he has announced his intention to enter into the transfer portal. I guess it's a grad transfer, although I guess he would have an extra year or 2 as well. So Brandon Moore looks like one of the very last, if not the last, of the sort of Frost era recruits. Mike puts his intentions to move on elsewhere.
I was a little surprised when I heard it. This whole season, we kind of waited for when is Bam Moore coming back, We thought maybe he would be ready at the beginning of the year. Obviously, he was not, and now he's out of here. He's had some big moments at UCF, going back to his freshman year, that 2017 season, the game against Navy with a big hit, forcing the fumble late in the game to seal that one. And then, of course, the interception return against Joe Burrow and LSU in the Fiesta Bowl. Very good player. We expected him to be a big part of the secondary with Richie Grant and Collier and Neville Clark going into last season in 2019, and he gets hurt on the opening day, which was maybe he has part of that still on his mind. Why was he still in the game, which was a blowout against FAMU? And we heard the excuses of they all had a play count that they were supposed to get a certain number of snaps that night. But maybe he's always been a little bit bitter about why he got hurt, and maybe he didn't want to play here anymore. I don't know. That's just me speculating. But he's gone now. No word on where he's going, or do we have any favorites of where he's going to go?
Well, if you want to read the conspiracy theory tea leaves, obviously he's pretty close with Mackenzie Milton. They spent a ton of time in the training room as they were both rehabbing from their injuries. And so, could he go or be trying to go to Florida State? Apparently, a lot of the Florida State coaches just began following him on Twitter, which is always the first sign you want to look for in terms of recruiting, Mike. But he hasn't played in 2 years. I mean, is Florida State willing to give a scholarship to him? Would they let him come as a walk-on? So I think Florida State's probably the first spot, or at least a spot. But in terms of, the why, I mean, here's the challenge, Mike. I mean, a lot of these kids have been around forever. They've done their time. They've graduated. Maybe Brandon Moore's looking around saying, hey, they're going young here. They're going young guys. They don't, maybe they don't, I don't see a place for me anymore. I'm not, why are they going to put me in there? Maybe they want to develop, Devontae Dawson, who's coming in, didn't play last year. They got some JUCO guys that are coming in. Maybe he just looked around and said, hey, I don't know where I fit in here anymore. And B, Mike, I mean, listen, all of his classmates are gone at this point, right? Maybe he just looked around and said, hey, everyone else has moved on. Maybe it's the right thing for me to do to move on as well. And then C, you kind of said it. You know what? Sometimes when something really bad happens to you, the last thing you want to do is be reminded of every day. So maybe just a change of scenery is what he was looking for. But I think there was rumors that he would be back and that he was trending to play at UCF, and obviously something changed his mind. But he'll forever be remembered for those two major plays you mentioned. Obviously the Navy forced fumble and in the pick six 93-yard touchdown in the Fiesta Bowl. He wraps up his career. He had, let me look at it quickly, 77 tackles, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble and a fumble recovery. So Brandon Moore in the portal and moving on. And I'm sure we wish him the best, Mike. The other name that has been out there for a while, speculation, we weren't sure, yes or no, Josias Stretch Creedle, talented freshman wide receiver, has indeed entered his name into the transfer portal. Creedle played in a handful of games this year, only 8 receptions, 76 yards. He was probably in line to get a bunch of catches this upcoming year, but it sounds like there was some bad feelings about how much he played or didn't play this season and what his role was, and so he's decided to put his name in the portal, and he'll be moving on as well, which is a bit of a blow because he obviously was a kid I know we were all excited about.
He was the training camp darling coming into this past season. Everybody fell in love with this guy. We didn't get to see any practices, but we got a lot of still photos. And he looked the part, man. And he of all of the receivers we have, was the biggest one. And that's what we needed, a big target for Dylan Gabriel going downfield, somebody that can replace Gabe Davis. And now we have a bunch of talented guys, but a lot of smaller guys. And we figured he would be the missing link there. And now he's gone. And it's questionable. Why is he leaving? And you would figure coming into this season, as a freshman, he got playing time. He played in pretty much every game. He didn't start, and he didn't get a lot of balls thrown his way. But you figure that's just the price you pay with the veterans that we had at that position. He wasn't going to be getting 20 targets a game. So why wouldn't he come back to this next season when all these guys are leaving? Marlon Williams gone, Trey Nixon gone, Jacob Harris gone. You would figure between him, Jalen Robinson, and O'Keefe, that would probably be your starting 3 going into next season. Now he's out of here. It does raise some eyebrows around UCF and why is he leaving? Maybe there's other reasons. Maybe he was never happy here to begin with. I don't know. And maybe that's just the product of 2020 college football now with the transfer portal. Basically, there's something we're going to have to get used to. People are going to come and go every year. And we get people from the transfer portal, like you say, but we're also going to lose guys every year too, and this is just part of the deal going forward.
Yeah, right. You could take it two ways, right? There's obviously the contingent of people who say, "Look, something is wrong with the program. Look at all these guys leaving, all the upperclassmen who could have stayed for an extra year. All of them decided to bail out of here. Then we lose Brandon Moore, we lose McKenzie, we lose Stretch Cradle. Something's wrong with the program. Things aren't going well. This guy left last year, this guy left the year before, and all that stuff's true, Mike. Obviously, those are facts. Those guys left, but everybody has their own individual reason, and I think that's where it makes it tough to come up with an overarching theme of why folks are doing this. If you had to kind of pinpoint it, it sounds like what the rumors are out there are really just a lack of alignment on how much he was on the field. And maybe he just wasn't convinced he was going to get that time this year. Maybe he feels like he was wronged. He was told he'd get certain time, didn't get that time, so now doesn't have a trust with the staff. He's from Georgia. Maybe he's just like, hey, I want to get closer to home. I want to play someplace nearby. It's hard to say, but I said this a few weeks ago on the show. A coach was quoted as saying why this transfer rule could be a bit of a challenge and why college football coaching was a challenge. And he basically said, not only do you have to recruit new guys every year, now you've got to continue to re-recruit the guys you have on your roster. And maybe that's just one of those scenarios where Heupel's out there recruiting the next guys coming in and focus on this guy and that guy and the other guy. And Credo, for whatever reason, just wasn't getting the, what he was looking for in terms of mentorship, coaching, love, respect, whatever. And, decided the door's over there and he was going to take it. And this just could be 2020 football, or it could be that the entire team is fractured or broken, or it's probably somewhere in between.
Respect my decision. No matter what, just respect the decision.
No interviews.
Exactly. Kids are doing this coming out of high school. Kids change their mind all the time. They commit to a school and then they decommit. And then now they go to the school and they leave after a year. And it's not just here at UCF. It happens everywhere. Look at just today, I believe, Nebraska. And you can say whatever you want about Heupel losing these guys, but Frost can't hang on to his guys either. Because Nebraska today lost their best receiver, right?
Yep.
What was his name? Kendall Robinson or something?
Wandale. Wandale, yeah.
Wandale?
Yep.
So it's not just a Heupel thing, and it's not for people that want to bash Heupel, you can't hang on to his guys. Well, those are the people that love Frost that say that. This wouldn't have happened under Frost. Well, it's happening under Frost in Nebraska. Yeah. So it's happening everywhere. I mean, you got schools like Georgia. Justin Fields was the quarterback, right? He left. Yes. Where is he at now? He's playing at Ohio State.
Right now he's in Miami at a 14-14 tie.
All right. Sounds like a decent game that I'm not watching.
Just FYI.
So it happens everywhere, and it's going to continue to happen. It's just the way it is now in the year that we're in.
Well, again, the transfer portal giveth and it taketh away, right? So two names, UCF is kind of in the market now. There's rumors swirling about a couple of guys that UCF's after. Here's the funny thing about the transfer portal now, Mike. Anytime a kid enters the portal, I think I said portable there, I meant portal. Everybody's like, hey, we should get this guy. Hey, what about this guy? What about this guy? It seems like we're in after 35 guys. Seems like the new, hot destination to transfer to right now is Florida State, actually. But two names UCF is allegedly hot on the trail of and is looking to close the deal on. One is indeed a wide receiver, Charleston Rambo, former 4-star recruit. He's been at Oklahoma in the past couple seasons, and he's in the portal. There's some speculation that there is some interest in UCF. Obviously, UCF would have some interest in him. Oklahoma tie. Obviously, he knows Jalen Robinson really well. I'm not sure what he knows about Heupel. There was some talk that he knew a little bit about Darrell Wyatt. Obviously, not going to be around anymore. So who knows what the tie-in is there and what the prospects look like. But that's one name at least UCF fans can be on the lookout for. And the next is running back Ty Chandler. He's coming from Tennessee. He's a 4-year player. He's a 4-star recruit. 2,000 yards in his career, 13 touchdowns in his career. And so maybe UCF looking to add some backfield depth. So those are two guys, Mike, that seem like UCF is kind of keying in on. But, again, we don't always know the full story behind who else they're looking at or what they're looking for. But UCF is definitely fishing in the portal as we speak.
Well, we always complain about not getting enough 4-star, 5-star guys here. This kid Rambo was a 4-star guy. And he's got a cool name, Rambo. I think we could, with the NIL stuff coming up, maybe we can do some marketing on there and get this kid paid a little bit. And The kid from Tennessee seems like a good prospect too. How many stars was he? He's probably a 4-star.
He was a 4-star, yeah. Yep.
So there you go. It doesn't matter when you get them as long as you get them. And if they can contribute, then that's all we need. But obviously, when the semester started today, I believe.
It did.
If these guys are not on campus yet. They better get moving if they want to sign them. If they want to be able, they want to participate in spring ball here, right?
UCF Mike playing the role of registrar. I think there's like a 2 or 3 day grace period right before you have to enroll. But yes, in theory, we should be hearing really, really shortly about which of these guys UCF was able to maybe ink or convince to come to Orlando. So stay tuned. Obviously, here's the thing with the transfer portal, Mike. We get excited about these names and we're like, yeah, we love this guy. And sometimes these guys pan out, sometimes they don't. It sounds like UCF's also potentially looking or shopping around for some D-line, D-end help. So we'll see if there's any names out there that UCF can snag. But the transfer portal is going to be a new thing. Obviously, we've used it in the past, sometimes to the good, and then sometimes to the bad. So we'll see how these guys shake out. But obviously, we'll know more here in the coming days as classes did begin today, the 11th for UCF. Let's pivot quickly, Mike, before we get to the next segment here. Basketball. We were hyping up that Memphis game last week after the Tulane game got canceled. Guess what? Memphis did not get played. UCF opted to or was forced to cancel due to some COVID concerns within their program. A couple of rumors around about some players having COVID, so that game has gotten bumped back. Now it looks like that game will actually be played, and now UCF actually kind of short end of the stick here. They actually have to now go and essentially play back-to-backs at Memphis. So the game was supposed to be Tuesday the 5th at UCF. It's now been rescheduled for February 1st at Memphis, and then UCF turns around and plays again at Memphis on February 3rd. So kind of I don't want to call it the punishment, but because I think Memphis had already landed in UCF and they were preparing to play, and then UCF had to call it off. Now UCF's essential punishment is they have to play back-to-back games at Memphis on the road.
And that's not a place where we've had a lot of success.
That's not a place where we've had success. That's correct.
So that is definitely a big blow for us. Anytime you lose a home game and have to play a tough place like Memphis twice in 3 days is not good. Hopefully you steal one. And I think we were favored coming into the game here. And now to be on the road against these guys, we may be underdogs for both those games. And who knows where our team is at now. We haven't played now in over a week, and the next game we're going to play actually got pushed back a day too. Right? Yep. We're supposed to play Wednesday, and now we're playing Thursday.
Yeah, we got that coveted noon Thursday time slot at Temple on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, and I think that was to give us an extra day to test positive. So
negative.
Who knows if we're even going to get that game in? And this whole season now is just in flux. You never know when you're going to play. Yeah, and even who's to say once we get healthy, the teams that we're going to be playing can stay healthy. So who knows how the season's going to end up going. That's why you didn't want to see any kind of long losing streaks. Now we're stuck in, 2-3 game losing streak that we're in the middle of right now. We haven't won a game now since, when was the last game we won?
December 22nd, the day of the Boca Bowl.
Yeah, so it's been a while, man. So to get this team back in rhythm now, it may take a couple days. It may take a couple games to get these guys back in. And the teams we're playing against may not have had any breaks. They may be in midseason form by now. So who knows what's going to happen now with this basketball season. Hopefully everybody gets healthy. That's the most important thing. Everybody gets through the COVID and is able to regroup and make a basketball season out of it, and hopefully give us something to root for the next couple months.
Well, a couple things. Earlier, you said the word in flux. Just want to make sure we got that down. We also had the Tulsa game wiped out. We were supposed to play Tulsa Saturday the 9th. That game got wiped out. So we're playing at Temple on Thursday on the 14th. Temple actually hasn't played since the 30th. They actually played on Monday and lost to SMU. So they had gone almost 2+ weeks without playing. As well due to some cancellations within their program and other programs. So at least from Temple and UCF's perspective, they've kind of both been in the same boat. But the rest of the season, to your point, we play at Temple, turn around, and then we have Houston, SMU, and so the schedule certainly does not get any easier for UCF. And then with the looming back-to-backs at Memphis, we'll see. There was some Andy Katz, I think it was Andy Katz, who respected college basketball voice and writer and just media dude, said essentially that he thinks the American may only end up being a one bid conference, which does not bode well for UCF's postseason chances, unless of course they win that tournament, in which case maybe that's a 2-bid conference. So the schedule is daunting. I'd love to sit here and give you a breakdown of UCF on Temple, but here's the thing: I don't know who's playing. I don't know who we got. I don't know who's healthy, who's not healthy, who can play, who can't play. All I can tell you at this point is, Temple, they're now they're 1-3 or 0-3 in conference, again coming off a loss to SMU today on Monday. So tune in and see what that basketball program's all about. It's going to be it sounds like this one's going to be a bit of a roller coaster, Mike, throughout the rest of the year. So everyone just kind of stay tuned, and let's see if this thing can actually tip off on Thursday, Mike. But coming up next,
it's a must-win game against Temple.
Must win against Memphis. Must win against a lot of people. But coming up next, let's take a break here, and then we're gonna bring Jacob Harris into the conversation. So Jacob, a guy who's been around the UCF program for a long time. Somebody who we've had some fun at his expense, and maybe we owe him an apology, although I did not apologize to him during the interview. Maybe I should have done that. But Jacob was a good dude, tells some good stories, had some good perspective on the time at UCF, and he answered pretty much every question, and we hit him with a few. So don't go anywhere. After this break, Jacob Harris coming up, Sons of UCF.
The Suns have a new interview. Listen up.
All right, happy to be joined by Jacob Harris this week. And if you're not familiar with Jacob's work, here's a couple of quick highlights. First off, and probably most importantly, UCF graduate, UCF alum, which is awesome. He's been with the football program since 2017. He's reported to be one of the fastest guys on the team. We'll get into that in a little bit. And if you're not familiar with his 2020 season, all he did was come in second on the team with 8 total touchdowns. Just a monster of a player. I think every week I refer to him as a human pterodactyl, just because of his size and his speed. But first off, Jacob, man, we can't thank you enough for taking some time to come on the show with us.
Oh yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Let's start with this. Your background's really interesting. You didn't get into football until really late in your high school days. You were actually more of a soccer player. I guess kind of a two-parter. What did soccer kind of help maybe teach you about football? And then B, what prompted you to sort of make the switch and give the gridiron a shot?
Growing up playing soccer, I mean, just being able to be a team player. Soccer is a type of sport where you have a certain position, a certain role at all times on the field. And that helped me kind of transition to football, knowing my role at certain times and being able to be, just the ultimate team guy. And as well as the footwork as well. Footwork really helped me transition to being a wide receiver in football. And I got to give credit to, one of my good friends in high school. He convinced me to come out and try out for the football team in high school, and I never looked back since.
I got to imagine, I don't know how tall you were in high school. I don't know when your growth spurt happened, but I had to imagine, were you one of the tallest kids on the soccer team?
Yeah. For most of my soccer career, I was one of the tallest. I had a late growth spurt in high school. I didn't reach 6'4" until about my late junior year of high school, and then 6'5" by my senior year. So I was a late bloomer.
What position did you play in soccer?
I changed between right wing and left wing, and then mostly forward.
Dude, with your speed and your size, you had to have been like unstoppable on the soccer field.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was a good time on soccer for sure. They used to feed the ball down, and I just run down the ball and score.
Can you just head every ball in? I mean, you're the tallest one out there.
Yeah, we had set plays on corner kicks and whatnot for me to go up and head the ball.
Well, so at some point, obviously, you transitioned to football, and then you kind of took a bit of a circuitous route to UCF. You were at FGCU for a while in soccer, then you went to Western Kentucky, and then finally ended up at UCF. Take us through that journey. Where you started and how you ultimately ended up in Orlando.
Yeah, so actually coming out of high school, I had a couple of D2 offers for football, a lot of D1 offers for soccer, and then what had happened was I was verbally committed to Florida Gulf Coast for soccer. And then a week later, I had decommitted because I was just so intrigued with football that I had to go pursue it. And I was able to get a preferred walk-on opportunity at Western Kentucky. And it was my only D1 opportunity, so I took it. And when I got there, I enjoyed it a lot. I loved the football. It was a great coaching staff, great teammates. It just a little bit out of my element, living in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So I struggled with that a lot at first. So I knew everything wasn't right there. So I had to make a move, and the only option that I had was, okay, do I try to go back to Florida Gulf Coast and play soccer at this point? So I tried to go and pursue that, and that fell through. And being 2 months out of football while I was at Florida Gulf Coast for that spring semester, it made me realize how much I really fell in love with the sport and missed it. And I just went and talked to my high school coach, who really helped guide me through this process and helped me out. And got my film to a couple schools, including USF, FIU, and UCF. And it just worked out that I enrolled in UCF, and that day while I was sitting there in the line in orientation, Coach Held at the time under Frost looked at my film and, called my high school coach back right away and said, we'll take him as a preferred walk-on. And I found out that day while I was in line at orientation at UCF that I had a spot on the team.
Thank God you didn't go to the Cows. That would have been tragic, Jacob. Good job out of you.
Yeah. It all worked out in the end. And it's funny, a little backstory too. My first my first unofficial college visit for soccer was at UCF when I was a sophomore in high school.
So you're pretty familiar with the campus and everything already then?
Yeah.
All right. So you spent the 2017 year on the scout team. That was the perfect season. Even though you're not playing in those games, how much fun was it to be on the sidelines, going through, especially there at the end of the year when the Cal game and the championship game and the Peach Bowl? How awesome was that?
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a season I'll remember forever. Just because that team that we had, I mean, it's tough to find a team like that at that time. Just everyone was on the same page, everyone was clicking, and it was probably one of my most fun years being a part of the team. Even though, I wasn't in a position that I wanted to be, I was on scout team, but every day I was just excited to go out there and, contribute, just because, being behind a leader like Shaquem Griffin and Coach Frost and, all those guys that they had, it was just, they made it fun and exciting to go and work with them every day.
Yeah, you guys looked like you were having a blast with all the little celebrations after every touchdown, right? You would, like, do the bowling ball thing and all that. What was the coolest one you guys did?
I can't even remember. It had to be. I honestly can't even remember.
Were you like pinching yourself like holy shit, I can't believe I just lucked into a walk-on role and I didn't know what my future was, and now I'm on an undefeated team with the Peach Bowl? Were you just like, I can't believe like how things turned that quickly for you?
Yeah, no, I was definitely had to take a step back and just take in the moment, especially when we got to the Peach Bowl. Just prideful of where I'd come so far, and then just kind of got me excited for the journey with UCF. Coming off a team that went undefeated like that, went to the Peach Bowl and beat a team like Auburn. It just fueled the work ethic for sure.
So when you find out Frost is leaving, obviously you just mentioned Coach Held and him brought you in. Now he's going to go, and you see Heupel come in. What's your thought process there? You feel like you have to prove yourself all over to these guys?
Yeah, that was a tough transition at first because I was accustomed with Frost staff and Coach Walter, and the whole staff knew me, and then I was a walk-on trying to earn a scholarship, and when I heard that the whole staff was changing and I had a whole new staff, it was like, okay, starting back over again. Now I gotta go prove myself to a whole new coaching staff, and hopefully this coaching staff likes me and whatnot. So it was definitely like a rebuild.
How does that work as a walk-on? Do you essentially have to try out again for the Heupel staff? Or are you kind of guaranteed a role in the team? How does that work from a walk-on perspective?
I'm not sure. I mean, there were definitely some walk-ons that didn't transitioned from the Frost staff to the Heupel staff. I don't know if that was just them leaving the team or what happened, but I'm sure, I definitely had to prove myself again, as a walk-on. I'm sure I had, certain opportunities to show, whether or not they were going to keep me on the team or not. And that was something that was definitely in the back of my mind too, as I approached the first couple of weeks with this new staff, just any opportunity I had to show that, I deserved to be on the team.
Well, I mean, listen, a lot of people over the last couple of years, have seen you, catching a lot of deep balls in the end zone, but, people forget about the grind. So that 2018 season, you're finally eligible on the field, and you spent the bulk of that year on special teams, which, is probably one of the least glamorous parts of football. But, obviously it's a spot where, a guy like yourself can sort of prove yourself and make your mark. What about, special teams to you did you take kind of like pride in or desire in? Because it's not something everybody wants to do. But you were, a standout on special teams. You were always downfield making tackles. How much pride did you take in sort of your special teams play and what you were able to put on tape for the coaches?
I took the same amount of pride, going into special teams as I did as going into wide receiver. At the end of the day, special teams is interesting compared to like playing wide receiver. Wide receiver is a lot of talent, a lot of skill involved in that. Special teams, you don't have to be the most talented guy or the most skilled guy. It actually comes down to effort a lot of times. And if you got the effort and you're giving all your effort each time on special teams, most of the time you're going to come out on top winning those battles. And that was something that came easy to me for special teams because I was always going to be a guy that was going to give my max effort.
This may sound like a silly non-football player question, but is special teams scary in the sense that you're running down like you're shot out of a cannon as fast as you can trying to get downfield? And, I mean, obviously, the fair catch rule, and they've done a lot to eliminate collisions, but look, it's a contact sport. Like, is it kind of scary? Is there a bit of an edge of like fear or fright as you're going full speed down the field?
No, not at all. If anything, it's kind of like an adrenaline rush. Get excited, get an opportunity to go run down the field and smack someone.
Well, the obviously you did such a good job on special teams and made an impression on the coaches that one day you get tapped on the shoulder and you're told that you're going to go on scholarship, right? We see a lot of those cool videos on social media these days. UCF's done. I think Greg McCrae had one. I remember where the police came in and made it seem like he had done something and they offered him a scholarship or whatnot. What's that day like for you? What's that feeling like? Take us back to the day when you were essentially handed your scholarship papers.
Oh, that day just felt like a whole bunch of weight lifted off my shoulders. I remember that time period specifically. There were many conversations I had with my family and whatnot on, how much further I was going to be able to pursue football just because of how much it costs, to be a college student. It was the off-campus living, meals, and classes and whatnot. So I would say the scholarship came at an ample time in my life. And yeah, I'll never forget that day just because the weight lifted off my shoulders and being able to tell my family, that I earned a scholarship and everything. It was great. Did
you get one of those unique situations, or was yours kind of more of a standard, hey, congratulations?
Yeah, mine was at the end of practice. Coach was just giving the regular, after practice talk, and then he started talking. He's like, we got, about guys that, do everything right, in the classroom, off the field, on the field, giving effort and whatnot. And then out of nowhere, he's just like, and that's why we're going to be putting Jacob Harris on scholarship. And that just kind of took me off guard. It was, yeah. And everybody just started, crowding around and jumping on me. So it was a cool moment for sure.
You probably get a little emotional just thinking about that, right?
Yeah.
All right, so in 2019, you really start making your mark now as a wide receiver. You developed this knack of catching deep balls all the time. It seemed like every time it was Jacob Harris, it was like 40 yards plus. Since you're kind of newer to football, were they kind of just telling you, hey, you're fast, just go deep on every play and we'll see if we hit you?
Yeah, that was actually, it was one of the skills that I was able to pick up right away was, just being able to run deep, beat guys deep, and my size. It gives the quarterback, plenty of room to put the ball up and just let me go get it. And that was one of the things that I had shown early on as a receiver at UCF, that I can go deep, and Hype definitely took advantage of that.
Talk to us a little bit about the Heupel offense, because he gets a lot of crap from fans of, it's basically really simple. We run up the middle and then we throw deep. We have 2 or 3 plays. Is it a lot more complex than that, or is that basically what it is?
I mean, in a sense, that's basically what it is, but it gets more complex than that. I mean, there's certain plays where, Dylan has, 3 or 4 reads on a play, and, as receivers, we've got, more than one option on one route on a given play. So there's the way it works is, we have a lot of RPOs built in. We have a lot of different run pass options that can be flipped in a second on the same exact play. So it's interesting. It may look like we're running the same play a lot of times, but half the time it's just window dressing for another play that's coming right after it.
Do you guys are the drives scripted in advance? Because it's the way you get the plays off so fast, it's almost impossible to get like a play call in. How does that work?
It would seem that way. I would say maybe the first 2 drives of a game are scripted, and then after that we're just rolling through the calls. I mean, there's certain plays that we'll just need maybe one small signal or one small cue, and everybody across the board knows what to do, and that's why we're able to play so fast.
How much freedom does Gabriel have to call audibles, or is it just basically reading the routes, or does he change the plays at all beforehand, or not really?
Oh yeah. No, well, they gave Dylan a lot of freedom this season, especially to change the play if he sees something, or even get it from the sideline to change a play and whatnot. And just the communication between Dylan and the receivers was on a different page this year. We had more freedom to, if we saw something early, we were able to, give, a gesture that we knew that, to change a certain route or whatnot.
All right, that 2019 season, Jacob, at FAU, 57-yarder, your first career touchdown. What do you remember about that play? And do you still have the ball from that catch?
I do not have the ball from that catch, but I do remember practicing that play for 4 days straight leading up to the game. I knew that when that play was going to get called in the game, if everything panned out perfectly, it was going to be a touchdown. And when we called the first play up to set up that touchdown play, I knew the coverage. When I saw the safety playing more towards the middle of the field, I knew that it was going to be a touchdown, especially with the nickel playing tight coverage.
One of the things I remember about that game, that was only the second game of the season. That was the first start for Dylan Gabriel, which kind of came as a surprise to the media. Obviously, you obviously knew before everybody else, right? But kind of a surprise for everybody else. So looking back at the Dylan Gabriel that took the field that day at FAU, and the Dylan Gabriel that you last saw in your last game against BYU, where did you see the most growth and development in Dylan? Where did you see him as a quarterback, where you looked back and you're like, man, this kid is going to be fantastic?
His ability to read the field and just know where the pocket space is going to be. Last year, Dylan, I can remember Dylan when he first started, he tried to stay in the pocket more, was less mobile. And I think throughout the year, even towards the end of the 2019 season, he started gaining more confidence to, leave the pocket when he needed to and, throw on the run. And he showed that a lot through this past season as well.
Is that a part of the offense? Obviously, in the 18 offense, which some people consider that offense, and maybe you know better than us. Maybe that's a question I should ask you. Some people assume that the 2018 offensive system, which obviously Mackenzie Milton was still at quarterback at that point, was a bit of a hybrid between sort of the Frost Heupel system. Some players have told us it was more just a terminology thing. From your perspective, was it more of a hybrid offense? Was the 19 offense and the 20 offense different than that 2018 offense?
No, I would agree with the other guys. It's more of just a hybrid. Most of the time when the quarterback's scrambling or whatnot, or we're doing those read options, it's because it's how it allows us, to determine the run game, pass game, and keep the defense, guessing, what we're going to do.
Well, one of the things in 19, to your point, Dylan didn't seem to run a ton right now. In UCF, we got spoiled like incredibly because KZ was so dynamic out of the pocket, and we saw that a ton in 16, 17, 18. Obviously, Dylan's a much different quarterback, but we didn't see him run a bunch in the 2019 season. Seems like that happened more in 2020. Is that a concerted effort? Is that something Heupel is in his ear, that you guys are in his ear, like, hey, Dylan, if you got the play, take it? Was he reluctant, or do you think Heupel was reluctant to maybe let him get out of the pocket and make some of those runs?
I'm not really sure. I think it just came down to his confidence in his ability to run out of the pocket. I think early on, he didn't have the confidence per se to leave the pocket and run. But, I think the first game he did it, I want to say was Houston in 2019. And he got like 12 yards in the run. And I think after that, he started slowly building into that role where he's like, okay, I can leave the pocket and I can, gain some yards in the run and whatnot.
We had a few tough losses the last couple of years, close games. Especially in 19, 3 losses by a total of 8 points. This year, a couple close ones to Memphis and Cincinnati. What's the difference between this team the last 2 years in these close games and then the team in 17 and 18 where it seemed like we pulled out all the close ones?
Yeah. Well, you mean the difference is, each year you're losing, some veteran guys, some leaders that are in the room at every position. And I would say the hardest thing about transitioning from each year is, finding who's going to be the next guy to step up and take leadership of that room and kind of try to keep the culture that has been built, especially with that 2017 team, to keep that culture around and to kind of help bring these young guys that are new to the program up to the standard that was at UCF previously.
So when you see some things like some ugly moments in this season, the end of the Memphis game when Barsky and Quadri kind of get into it, or the defensive guys with the incident they had getting kicked off the team. Do you think there's a difference in the locker room? Did you notice a difference in the locker room this season compared to the other years?
I mean, yeah, you're always going to have a different locker room each year. One locker room's never going to be the same as it was the year before. So, that's something that we just got to adjust to every year. It sucks, that what happened to the guys on defense. I wish it had never happened to them, and I wish that those guys the best of luck in their careers and everything in the future. And then with at the end of the Memphis game, that was all emotion. At the end of the day, it's a competitive game, and we all pour everything into it. So obviously we want to win, and when things don't go our way, some emotions are gonna show. But at the end of the day, those guys are good. They're all right with each other.
So how quickly does something like that get squashed, right? Like obviously us and the fan base and the media, we were all over it, right? It was there were memes everywhere, all that other stuff, right? You don't have to get into the specifics, obviously, but how quickly does that get? Did you guys get back to the locker room and everyone was like, "Hey, we good"? Like, is it something that you have a meeting on the next practice? How quickly does stuff like that kind of get addressed and squashed?
I mean, right when we get back to the locker room, everyone's emotions are high and whatnot, but I mean, at the end of the day, we're a team, so we come together at the locker room at the end of every game, and whether it's win or lose, we're always going to ride for each other and be together as a team and a unit.
Well, obviously there are a lot of, Mike mentioned a couple of strange things, but the strangest thing, obviously, by far is, the little pandemic you guys had to play through, right? So listen, as fans, we got our TVs on Saturdays and Fridays and Sundays, whatever. We watch football, we cheer, and we have a good time. But we probably, frankly, have no clue what you guys are going through day in and day out to get ready, to get prepared, to actually get on the field, and all the different things that you have to go through. I know there's a ton. Can you just kind of take us through some of the biggest changes and maybe the biggest, I don't want to call them hassles, right, because it's for everyone's health and safety, but some of the biggest, hassles that you guys had to kind of go through this year to get on the field and play each of these games?
I would say the biggest change was, getting tested 3 times a week. Every week it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We would get tested. And then to get into our building for practice or workouts or anything like that, there was one entrance in and one entrance out that everyone had to use. It's players, coachings, all staff, everybody. And that was kind of a way to kind of monitor, the flow of traffic, make sure that we limited any close contacts if there were any. And we had to wear a mask at all times, when we were inside the building and outside the building if we weren't wearing helmets. We had social distance sitting at our Garvey Nutrition Center where guys were only permitted one per table. And we had little slips that we had to flip over after we sat there so that the staff would know to clean the table afterwards. So, there's a lot that got put into this season, making sure that, we were able to play all 9-game schedule. And I think that's a big testament to our training staff and the coaches and our equipment staff and everyone who just was a part of making sure that they had a solid plan for us, every day to make sure that we were staying healthy and safe.
Well, that's Saturdays. Take us through Sunday through Fridays. It looks like you guys are in college. Mike and I went to UCF, right? Like, obviously, it's way different. There wasn't everybody around campus, obviously, but you guys probably want to go out and have a good time, right? You want to, cut loose, let off some steam. Mm-hmm. What was that like for you guys? Kind of the Sunday through Friday mentality. I mean, were you guys, simply living in sort of like your own football bubble? I mean, what was that like to endure? Because again, as fans, we all just cheer on Saturdays. We don't see the BS you guys have to do Sundays through Friday.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, we kind of pretty much had created our own little bubble. For the most part, guys who lived on campus were going from football to their dorm rooms on campus, and then guys off campus were, same thing, going pretty much from football to their housing off campus. And I would say, it shows that, that we were able to play all 9 games, that guys were doing the right thing. When they did have those off days, making sure that they were practicing, safe social distancing and kind of just doing everything that they could to not put the team in jeopardy.
Well, except for that one night, I guess. Were you shocked?
Yeah.
Were you as shocked as us? Did that come as a surprise to you guys on the team, or is it kind of like known inside? Hey, these guys go out every once in a while, or how is that? Is there a lot of communication between offense and defensive guys?
Yeah, I mean, there's some communication between guys. I was actually surprised because I had no idea, especially if I think it was a game week too. But everyone makes mistakes. I mean, I'm sure they didn't have bad intentions with what they were doing and whatnot. And it was just one wrong decision that ended up costing them. But yeah, I would say I was surprised at first.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are sacrificing so much. Like Adam was just saying, you can't go out, and then to hear that these guys are going out, and there's a chance that the game could have got canceled because of that.
Yeah.
They test positive or something. But anyway, the team now going forward, we're losing a lot of wide receivers going into next year. Marlon Williams had a great year. He's gone. You're leaving. Yeah. Trey Nixon's leaving. And now today, the news of Stretch Cradle entering the transfer portal. Were you surprised about hearing that, or have you been talking to him recently? Did you expect that he was going to be transferring soon?
I actually was surprised to hear that. I didn't talk to Stretch too much after I had left, but I was surprised to hear that he was transferring. But I know that that receiver room over there at UCF is a real tight group. And I don't know if you guys saw on social media, but Amari and Stretch, seem to be pretty close. Yeah. And they supported him. I'm sure they all supported him through his decision. I mean, I support his decision. I wish the best of luck to him wherever he ends up. And for the guys that are still there at UCF, I mean, that room, got a lot of talent in that room still. Guys just haven't been able to showcase it fully yet, like Amari. And then we got Ryan coming back, who's, obviously we know he's a fast guy, and when he gets the ball in his hands, he can make something happen. And then I'm excited to see, Jalen kind of be the leader of that room and see how he transitions next year.
Jacob,
did you ever get a sense? Oh, sorry. Did you ever get a sense from Stretch that he wasn't happy this year? Because I mean, you would figure with all these guys leaving, he got playing time a lot this year. You would figure he'd be in line for a lot of playing time next year.
He did. I really didn't get a sense. Stretch he's the type of dude that stays neutral. So it's really hard to read what he's feeling on a certain day. He's a pretty neutral guy.
Jacob, what can you tell us about a player that we haven't seen a bunch of? He's been injured, but Jared Baker, young kid, talented kid. I know he's had some tough injuries. Yeah. We haven't seen him on the field a lot. You see him every day in practice. I remember seeing the kid's tape. He looked pretty special. What do you think he'll be as a receiver?
Oh, Baker's got everything in the toolbox for him to be a great receiver there. It's unfortunate the setbacks that he's had, but I mean, he's made full recoveries and he looks great out there in practice. Just getting back into the swing of things, and I call him our slippery receiver because he somehow is able to slip past DBs in the tightest of spaces. So it'll be exciting to watch when he gets his opportunity on the field.
Well, one of the last games we saw your opportunity in the field, the Cal game in Tampa. You had, I guess, probably one of the biggest games of your career, 5 for 110 and 3 touchdowns. How cool is it to kind of, wrap up, your regular season UCF career on the road against our rival, being able to throw horns down 3 times on touchdowns? How cool was that?
It was special. I had a bunch of family at that game. I knew it was probably going to be one of my last games at UCF or with the team, and just to end it in my hometown added extra emphasis on that game, and it really helped bring out that performance for that game.
Give us some insight. We've had a lot of the older players on, and the UCF and the Cal rivalry, kind of was dormant for a while, right? Because they wouldn't play us for a long time. And it really just kind of got rekindled around 13, 14 or whatnot. And so a lot of the guys we have on don't even really think of them as a rival. I mean, back then it was ECU and some of the other schools. How much trash talk is going on the field when it's rivalry week? Obviously, we saw in 19 there's a bit of a bare-chested shoving match between a couple of dudes that was out there, right? How much trash talk is going on the field when you guys are playing the Cows?
It's funny because there's definitely trash talk. I'm not one to usually talk trash. I'm usually pretty quiet during the games. I'll let the DBs do all the talking that they want to do. But that game specifically, I remember the DB kept, just talking to me at the beginning of the game, the whole game, just wouldn't stop. And I think that also kind of helped light a fire to really take it to him. But yeah, there's a lot of trash talk, especially USF. They like to talk.
Who's the best trash talker on our team? Whether it's in practice or during games, who on our team can really bring it?
Amari Johnson. Amari, he's probably the best trash talker.
Well, hold on a second. How does this work though? When he got kind of decleated in the BYU game on a punt return, did you guys give it back to him?
No, I mean that was just unfortunate. The guy was just clean down the field, and that ball was hanging up there. But I mean, credit to Amari. I mean, he took that hit like a champ and got right back up like this.
Yeah, he's funny to watch on the field, obviously. So you obviously mentioned that for those who don't know, obviously you declared yourself eligible for the NFL draft. Obviously you fulfilled your time at UCF. You graduated, so you didn't leave early, quote unquote. Obviously you finished your UCF career, but obviously you had a chance to come back for another year. So there was kind of that free, quote unquote, COVID year. What went into your decision to decide that you were going to put your name into the draft?
A big part of it was my preparation coming into this year before COVID. Mentally and physically, I was preparing, that this was going to be my last season. And then when COVID hit, it was kind of unsure if we were going to get a season. And then when we were able to get a season and we were able to schedule 9 games, at that point mentally, I was still in that same place. Like, okay, this is going to be, my last year. And I would stick by that decision because, once mentally there, mentally ready, it's hard to go back and say, well, do I come back for another year? Do I take more classes and all this? And it's just hard to, get back into that mentality of, staying another year when I've been preparing for the last half of the year to leave.
Do you get and again, forgive me on the naivety in this question. I know you can players can request like advisory from NFL committees and folks about kind of where they are from a draft perspective. Did you get any of that guidance? Did that help you make your decision, or were you kind of set on that decision regardless of what you might hear if you did indeed reach out to anybody from an advisory committee?
Yeah, I got some of that guidance as far as where I was at and where I sat with the scouts and teams and whatnot. But I think still regardless of how those came back, I think my mentality was again, still, this was going to be my last season. because of, my age and just taking classes and whatnot, I was just, ready for that next step of life, whether it was going to be football, which hopefully it is. That's what I'm pursuing right now, with everything I've got, or it's something else. And I think I was just ready for that next stage of my life.
So what do you think you have to work on to get to the next level? Are there a couple of things from a receiver perspective that you want to kind of hone in on to make yourself ultra prepared to take that next step?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it all comes down to, for me, it's always been a thing for me, is consistency. I know I've got the ability, to make the plays, and to do everything that a great receiver can do. I just got to do it consistently, and just working on my mentality throughout the game. Just being able to flip that switch and stay locked into what I got to do, and not kind of ride the wave up and down. Just kind of try to stay neutral in the middle.
You're playing in another game, right? What is it called? The College Gridiron Showcase?
Yeah, it won't be a game this year. It'll just be practice because of COVID. They're trying to keep the defense and offense separate.
Gotcha. So that's a nice opportunity for you there, and then hopefully get that combine invite, or at least a UCF Pro Day. I mean,
yeah.
A guy like you with your speed and your height, I gotta think scouts are gonna be drooling over you, man. Just keep working hard, and I think you're gonna find your way.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully. That's the goal.
Awesome. Well, you've been very gracious with your time, Jacob, but you're not getting it off easy, because what we do around here is we end every conversation with some rapid fire questions. We have 5 questions, but because we're bad at math, it's actually really 6 questions. And these could be about music and movies, sports, food. You never know what you're going to get from the rapid fire questions. So are you ready to face these tough questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, you mentioned that you spent some time at Western Kentucky. So tell me about what's the funnest thing to do in Bowling Green?
The funnest thing to do in Bowling Green. I guess it would be to go to the community pool center that they have there, and go swimming.
So real pool, not like billiards pool.
Yeah, no, it's a real pool. It's I don't know how you call it, like a community pool that everyone can just go to and swim in the summertime. I would say that's probably the most excitement you're going to get out of Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Is there a lot of bowling actually taking place over there? You guys go bowling a lot out there?
No, there is not. There's not much to do out there.
All right, so obviously the dream is to get to the NFL, and It doesn't matter which team. But as a kid growing up, what was your favorite NFL team?
Oh, I mean, I was born and raised in Florida, Tampa area, so I've always been a Bucs fan growing up.
All right, so that would be the all-time dream then, come if you ended up in Tampa, huh?
Yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be a cool opportunity.
You think they're Super Bowl's in Tampa? You think the Bucs are making a run?
Oh yeah, the Bucs are gonna make a good run, especially with Tom Brady as our quarterback and all the weapons we've got. I think we're gonna make a strong run in the playoffs.
All right, one of our favorite things around here is nicknames. We don't do much really well around here, but one thing we did do is we uncovered that players back in the day used to call George O'Leary the White Horse, which he did not know about until actually I think we told him. I'm not really sure. So now that the statute of limitations is done, UCF has you've left the facility there. You've got to tell us. You guys had to have had a nickname from Heupel for Heupel. So what was your nickname for Coach Heupel? And don't tell me it was Hype.
I don't think we had a nickname for Heupel. I'm trying to think. I don't know. The guys might be yelling at me right now that I forgot it or don't know it, but I just call him Coach Hype.
Yeah, see, I know you're doing that. Is there like a code word? Let's say you guys are like at practice, you guys are like screwing out a little bit, and all of a sudden, like he's gonna walk in the room. Like, is there like a way you guys alert each other that hey, Heupel's coming? Like, keep it straight here.
No, it was just Hype. Yeah, that's all it was.
You never called him the Shacket or anything?
No.
All right, so you got to help me with Heupel, man. Like, I don't know him personally, obviously. He was on the show like one time with Mike and seemed like a nice guy. Like, is he all coach speak all the time? Like, could you go to Heupel and be like, hey, coach, I should let you know that, I'm going to go out to dinner tonight. And he's like, well, go want to know at the buffet. Make sure you snap the whistle, plate the fork. Is he just like that at all times?
No, he's not
okay.
like us.
All right. Is he funny? Does he tell jokes? Is he funny?
Yeah. He cracks some jokes. He's a different guy. Outside of football. He's a real good guy, down to earth. Great family. I've got nothing but good things to say about Coach Hype. Especially for giving me the opportunity that I had at UCF.
All right, that's nice. But what's the funniest thing he's ever done? Tell me at least a joke, something he's done that made you laugh.
Every once in a while, he'll have like a voice crack or something. He's addressing the team or whatnot. So those we gotta try to not smile at or not act like it didn't happen. But.
All right, this is way more than 6 questions. I maintain that Heupel's face always makes it look like he has a goatee when he doesn't actually have a goatee. Am I right about that?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay. All right. I feel good now. All right. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
What's the worst chore to do around the house? Is it washing dishes or doing the laundry?
It's gotta be washing dishes.
Yeah. I'm stuck doing dishes like twice a day around here. I'm getting pretty tired of it myself.
How much you guys eating twice a day? All right. Obviously, I fully expect that you're going to have a long and illustrious NFL career. And one day we'll be saying, hey, we one time had Jacob Harris, NFL Hall of Famer, on the show. But if for some reason that doesn't work out, would you entertain soccer again? Would you try for the MLS or some of the American soccer leagues?
No, I don't think so. Just because soccer's that type of sport where, there's a lot of athletes in it, but it's very skill oriented. And just being away from it that long, I can confidently say I haven't touched a soccer ball in at least 3 years. Even though the muscle memory's there, the touch isn't. And I'm so fully invested in football that it's a make or break for football. And if I make it, I make it. If I don't, I don't. And that's it. And I'll move on with whatever I have to do.
Would a guy of your size be a good goalie option? Obviously, again, I know if that's not your path, that's fine. But is your height, your wingspan, is that a good goalie type of build?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I've definitely got the type of build to be a goalie.
All right. Jacob Harris, Orlando City, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe. We'll see.
What toppings do you put on your pizza?
Oh, always spinach and sausage.
Interesting.
Spinach, huh?
Yeah.
No
You
pepperoni?
didn't say kale.
gotta have some type of healthy.
Do you like kale, Jacob? I know a lot of athletes like eat kale because it's like the cool thing to do. Do you eat kale? Do you actually like kale?
I don't go out of my way to eat kale, but if it's there, I'll eat it.
All right, fair enough. I maintain kale is just like the worst tasting thing ever, and people do it just because they want to say they eat kale, and they don't really want to eat kale. But if you say you eat it, I'm going to trust you. You are way bigger than I am. Last one for me. I call you a pterodactyl. I'm not sure if that's insulting or not. I apologize if it is. Does anyone have a nickname for you? What is your nickname?
Through UCF, it's Big Drank, given to me by Coach Toe from Special Teams.
I feel like a follow-up question's in order as to how that happened, if you want to share.
I think, actually, you know what? It wasn't Coach Toe. Let me take that back. I think it was Coach Bell, DB's coach. I don't know. One day I was just out in the field in practice, and I think he said, that's a big drink of water. And that name just stuck, Big Drink.
All right, what's your favorite thing to do besides football? It's a hobby that nobody knows about.
I'm really into music. So, I got a couple guitars and then drums as well, like electric drum kit.
Oh, nice. What are you better at, guitar or drums?
Well, I've been playing guitar since I was a kid, on and off. But I would say that I'm probably more talented on the drums.
What kind of music are we talking? Are we talking like heavy metal? Are we talking about rock? We're talking about country? What's your thing?
Everything. Like I said, I enjoy all music. So it would be rock, hip hop, reggae, anything on the drums, really.
Well, hold on. So
Can you sing?
if you had to recruit 3 of your teammates to form a band with you, who would you pick?
Trey Nixon. Can this be past or present or past?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it got to be Trey Nixon, Gabe Davis, and let's go with. I'm trying to think. Let's go with Jalen Robinson.
Now is he the lead singer, or is he just there for like the boy band good looks?
Trey's just the boy band good
Okay.
looks. He doesn't serve much of a purpose.
Yeah, who's singing in that group? Who's the lead man? Gabe can sing?
This is the unknown singer. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Well, last one for us. I know obviously a bunch of your fellow teammates, Otis, Greg, Trey. Obviously, you guys are all going through the process together. How much are you guys staying in touch? How much are you guys kind of working out together, training together? And how excited are you for those guys as they're kind of going on the same journey you are?
Oh, I'm so happy, for those guys, and I wish them all the best of luck. And I think it's awesome, that we're all going through the same process at the same time. I would say Trey, me and Trey talk every day. He's training in Arizona at Exos, and I'm over here in Colorado at Landau Performance. So we're on the same time schedule, and it's funny, our workout sessions are actually at the same exact time. So I talk to him pretty much every day. I talked to Greg McCrae a couple of days ago, and I talked to Otis probably like maybe a couple weeks ago. But we're all pretty much try to stay in contact for the most part, and just encourage each other. During this time, just lay it all out there.
All right. Well, tell Trey to hit me up. I sent him a DM the other day. All right. Do you guys? And last one, I swear to God, do you guys have like a bet who's going to get drafted first? Do you guys have like a secret little bet on who's going to go first?
No, we don't have a bet on that, but I do have a bet with Trey on who's going to run the faster 40.
Ooh. Wow. All right. Well, yeah. So you have been purported to be the fastest guy on the team. I don't mean to say purported as if that's not true, because I just don't know. I'm not there. I don't want to give away the secret then if you want to, sandbag it for Trey. But is that accurate? Are you indeed the fastest of the UCF Fast?
Oh yeah, I'll say I'm the fastest. When we did our summer workouts, I hit the fastest top speed. Now it was with Kayvon Ahmad too. We tied for the top fastest speed, so I'll throw him up there with me. But Ryan O'Keefe also, I think he clocked the fastest time in season this year during the game. So all 3 of those guys are really fast. Trey would be up there if he had played, but right now Trey is slow since we have that bet.
I was gonna say, what are the betting odds? Can I get in on this? Like, are you 2-1? Like, what are the betting odds here?
I would say I'm fully confident in myself to win this bet. I would say 2-0.
Put your money on Harris. All right.
You guys are not betting on the bench press, though, right?
No, if we bet on the bench press, that would be me too.
Oh yeah. How much are you putting up now?
225. How many times? It's got to be a secret. I got to wait till I'm on a pro day when we do it.
Well, when you're fast, you don't have to be strong, Mike, though. That's how that works. Listen, Jacob, man, you've been really kind with your time, man. We really appreciate it. I know you got a ton of stuff on your plate. Like Mike said, man, we can't wait to see the next level for you. And wherever you go, obviously, Night Nation will always be behind you, man. So thanks for taking some time to join us, and best of luck to you, okay?
Oh, thank you guys for having me on the show.
This is UCF head coach Josh Heupel, and I go 1-0 every week with my guys Adam and Mike on the Sons of UCF. Charge on, go Knights.
All right, game time. We're proud of the games we play around here. Typically, we have a game that's kind of the same game over and over again. But Mike, you've come up with a new game. We're calling it Name That Night. Kind of a ripoff of the Name That Tune theme. How does this thing work, Mike? How are we going to play this?
Well, basically, we go on to the UCF websites, and they do a nice job of recapping everybody's career and telling you the highlights of everybody's career. And basically what I thought we could do was pick out a few clues from a guy and then have the other guy guess to see if they can figure out who we're talking about.
All right. Simple enough. So name that night. I guess who do you want to go first? Do you want to be? You want to give me the clues? I'll try to decide. Do you want me to give you the clues? How you want to do this?
I'll give you the clues first.
All right. Here we go.
Do you want to? How about I start? Kind of like name that too, and I'll give you one clue. If you can guess it right away,
okay.
Guess it whenever you think you can get it. Otherwise, I'll start giving you more and more clues until you finally get it. Because I think the more clues you get, eventually you'll figure it out.
All right.
All right, you ready?
Yeah, I've never been more ready.
All right. This UCF night recorded a sack for a safety in his very first college game.
Josh Aliskar.
No. Did he? Was there a safety? I don't think he got a safety, right? He forced a fumble.
I took it.
An interception.
Yeah.
Okay. Next clue. He led the team in sacks 3 years in a row.
Okay. Keep going. I'm moving on.
All right. He's also the UCF all-time sack leader with 32 career sacks.
Is it Bruce Miller?
El Diablo Rojo.
Diablo
right.
Rojo, yes.
The next clue, you would have got it. Named Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year twice in 2009 and 2010. Bruce Miller is correct. So you got it with 3 clues there. That's pretty good.
All right. Well, yeah, all right. Well, then we're playing prison rules. All right, I'm ready. You got here's yours. You let me know when you're ready. Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
All right. I got a couple of different options here. This one played. This night played from 1998 to 2001. You're not going to know that. That's fine. He has the single game record for tackles in a game, obviously, with 23.
23 tackles in one game.
Yep.
Ooh, 98, 2001. That's exactly when we were there.
Yep.
It's exact 4 years. 23 tackles in one game.
Yep.
You got to think it's probably a linebacker, right? Or I guess it could be a defensive lineman.
Want the next?
Elton Patterson.
That is incorrect.
All right, go to the next clue.
He had 143 during his senior season.
143. This guy's a tackle machine.
Which at the time, I think it still is a UCF FBS level record. One more clue.
Tito Rodriguez.
That is correct, my friend. Tito Rodriguez is indeed correct. Ding, ding, ding. Tito Rodriguez. Very good. Good job out of you.
Yeah, tackle machine linebacker during our time. I was trying to figure out exactly. He was there exactly the same 4 years as us.
Yeah.
So that was a good one. All right. Let's see. Defensive end. Totaled 16 sacks, 5 fumble recoveries, 4 forced fumbles, 2 block kicks, 8 pass breakups, and 1 interception.
Elton Patterson.
No. Led Conference USA in 2005 with 9 sacks.
Terrell Troop?
Nope. After an NFL career with Atlanta and sometime in Denver, returned to UCF as defensive graduate assistant in 2012 and 13.
With Atlanta and then sometimes Denver.
Mostly known for Atlanta. I don't even know he played at Denver. Maybe he just signed a contract with Denver. He had a couple years in Atlanta. Defensive end. Conference USA. He was with us in 2005 because he led Conference USA in 2005 with 9 sacks.
Why am I drawing a blank here?
Yeah, I'm paying you back for this.
I got nothing.
Jeopardy game that we played.
You got any more clues? I got nothing. You got any more clues?
No, those are all 3 of my clues for this guy because I couldn't find too many.
Then
clues.
I get the game show loser sound. Then I'm at the punt on this one.
Paul Carrington.
Oh wow.
Paul Carrington.
Who knew Paul Carrington played in the NFL? All right. We're going prison rules. All right, here we go. So I'm going to start off by giving you the year these guys played, just to help you out. So this guy played 2009 to 2012. Started his career at running back.
That's the first clue.
That's the first clue.
So he ended up somewhere else, obviously. He started as a running back. Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Say his name.
He moved to linebacker, right?
Say his name.
I'm drawing a blank on his name. Davis? I want to say it's Davis.
I mean, that's what Smith wasn't available. I mean, Davis is all you got.
I'm blanking on his first name, but I'm right. All right.
You are on to something here. Scored a touchdown in the St. Petersburg Bowl. In 2012, had a career-high 17 tackles in the regular season. Stands
I know that.
Only
his name is Davis. I'm blanking on his first name.
Stands only 5 feet 7 tall.
Exactly. I can picture him.
Jonathan Davis is the correct answer.
Jonathan
Davis. There he is. Ding, ding, ding. All right, Jonathan Davis.
I knew who you were talking about. He had a big game against Texas, I think, tackle-wise. All right. Okay, let's see if you get this one. He set the school record with 38 pass breakups. He ranks. Okay, go ahead. That was the first clue.
All right, keep going.
School record, 38 pass breakups. Ranks number 6 in career punt return average, 10.7 yards.
Joe Burnett?
No. Good guess. But when I pitched this game to you,
Mike Hughes?
It with Joe Burnett. No, not Mike Hughes. Team captain as a senior in 2002.
Paul Miranda.
No.
Jesus Christ.
Drafted by the New England Patriots in 2003,
Asante Samuel.
4th round. Boom.
He was a punt returner?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Because we were drunk at those games.
All right, here's the last one I got for you, okay? I'm not going to tell you the years anymore because I feel like this is giving it away for you. A wide receiver out of the Broward County area.
Okay, wide receiver, Broward County.
One of his biggest games, caught 9 balls, 145 yards for 2 touchdowns.
Is this that guy that was this?
No, it's not that guy. It's not that guy. No, it's not that guy. No.
Okay, because I can never remember that guy's name. Stewart, I think it was. All right, go ahead. I don't know yet.
Caught a go-ahead touchdown in perhaps the biggest game in UCF history.
Perhaps the biggest game in UCF history. Was Nelson?
That is correct. It is Dedrick Nelson. That is correct. Ding, ding, ding. Yes, you are correct. Our last clue was...
Nelson was a Dade guy.
No, he went to Flanagan.
Okay.
My last clue
was game in UCF history.
Was credited with wearing a lei on the field. I didn't know if you were going to... I figured that was a giveaway for you.
All right. So I got a couple more. I don't know how many you got.
Let's just run through and see what we got here.
All right. I only have 2 more. One of them's pretty obvious. Let's see. This one I think is a good one. I only have 3 clues for this guy.
Great, because I'm doing so well.
His first college and first NFL receptions were touchdowns. It's pretty tough.
Okay. So he played in the NFL. Okay.
Yeah, tied with Jordan Akins for most receptions as a tight end.
Darcy Johnson?
With 81. Darcy Johnson.
All right.
My third clue was Torchy threw a football at him during class for falling asleep.
I don't know. There's another clue that we probably can't tell on air about the time we tried to reach out to Darcy Johnson. All right. What's your that one I would have gotten if you told me that one. All right. What's the last one? I forgot
about that, actually.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't think he has either.
Highest QB rating among players to throw at least 30 passes. That's clue number 1.
Mackenzie Milton?
Yeah, nope. One of 2 quarterbacks to throw 50 more touchdowns than interceptions.
Dylan Gabriel?
Mackenzie Milton was 1, and Dylan Gabriel is the other.
There we go. All right. We'll name that night. Wow, I gotta brush up.
30 passes. I made that qualification because there's a guy that had a higher QB rating. He threw 29 passes. And his name is Noah Vedral.
Is that right? Wow. Good for you, Noah.
A higher QB rating.
Good for you, Noah. All right. Well, hopefully you guys are better than me on that game. Mike is certainly took out his revenge. Although I think maybe I should not have given you the years. I feel like giving you the years guys played was certainly a benefit to you. But I'm all about
Years.
trying to make you look good, buddy. That's what my job is here on the show. But coming up next, we'll make people look bad, and we do that with our Cow of the Week segment. That's up next. Sons of UCF.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each week for unique yet common sense opinions on sports on the Jeff Allen Sports Talk Podcast. We will break down the sports world minus the hot takes with prominent guests and my stable of sports guys. It's sports conversation the way it should be. Search Jeff Allen Sports Talk wherever you get your podcasts or go to jeffallensportstalk.com.
This is UCF Athletic Director Danny White, and if you don't want to be the Cow of the Week, you need to listen to Adam and Mike on the Sons of UCF. Charge on, go Knights!
All right, Cow of the Week. Momentarily, Mike. We had a little segment in between the Jacob Harris interview. It was good to catch up with Jacob. He answered every question. We asked him a couple of zingers in there, and he hung in there and answered all of them, and gave us some good insight on the season and obviously his career. And seemed like overall a good dude. I know he's a bit of a hot and cold from some folks at UCF's perspective, probably even including mine. But it was good to catch up with Jacob.
Very talented kid and a good story, coming in as a walk-on, getting a scholarship there in his second year, and had some pretty big games, caught a lot of big passes. A 3-touchdown game against the Cows here at the end of his career. And the funniest part to me was when you kept pressing him for that, why is Josh Heupel funny thing? He couldn't really come up with one other than his voice cracks sometimes. So he's unintentionally funny is the funniest thing Heupel does. But good talking with Jacob. I wish him the best of luck, man. Hopefully we see him on Sundays in the near future.
It was funny too. I liked his insight on the offense. He kind of technically said, "Yeah, you know what? Our offense is, somewhat, he didn't use the word limited. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he did kind of allude to, yes, it is kind of, it's a little more complicated than it looks, but on face value, it's kind of simplistic. I mean, obviously fans have been crying about that for years. He kind of echoed that sentiment a little bit.
Yep. So it's basically what we've been saying this whole time. We run the ball up the middle and throw deep. And there's some variations, and there's some communication between the quarterback and receivers where they can change things up slightly. But pretty much it is what it is. And, I mean, when you've seen the same plays for 2-3 seasons now, basically there's nothing you can tell me that's going to change my mind. And I think a lot of fans feel the same way. We see the plays. You don't have to tell me that we've run 100 different plays when we see that there's only 10.
I thought it was a cool story too. What he told about, I don't know. I pictured him standing in like the quad of UCF waiting for registration, and former running back coach Ryan Held tapping him on the shoulder and being like, "Hey, you want to come play with us?" And from that moment to all the things he saw at UCF to now preparing for the NFL draft, that's got to be pretty cool, particularly from a kid who sounds like he was kind of looking around to try to figure out what his options were. Soccer wasn't working out. Kentucky wasn't a thing, and he went from kind of like, all right, well, I got to figure this out to now declaring for the NFL draft and training for the combine and all that stuff. Man, that's pretty cool.
Well, if Held didn't tap him on the shoulder, maybe Johnny Dawkins would have found him. He got 6'8". He probably could have played some basketball too. And as we know, he's got some soccer skills. So just a very good athlete all around, and a really cool guy too. Nice guy.
Do you have him running faster than Trey Nixon in the 40?
Yeah,
because that's their big bet.
Accounts.
Yeah, that's their bet, right?
Yeah.
Their bet is that who's going to run the 40 faster. So you got Jacob over.
He's always been
over
the
Trey.
fastest.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I kind of agree.
That's what, according to everybody that we talked to, and according to the times when we saw them posted that time, they did what it was, a laser timing or whatever it was. He's the fastest guy on the team. He may not seem like it because he's got those long strides, but that's just deceiving. Man, he covers more ground faster than anybody else we got.
Well, it's good to catch up with Jacob. Hope you guys enjoyed that convo. We'll see if we can't bring you more of your former favorite Knights to share their inside stories of the times at UCF. Mike, let's transition to the Cow. It's the dumbest thing we saw over the week, and I'll let you lead off.
Well, Cows are happening as we speak. Because as we speak right now, there is a football game going on. And I guess they're going to declare a champion after whoever wins this game will be known as the national champion. But we know here at UCF that we've had plenty of problems with this whole system, the whole playoff system over the last few years. And we always talk a big game, but not many of us do anything about it, except for me and a handful of other ones who boycott this thing every single year. And the boycott is still strong. So far this season, I have watched 0.0 of any bowl game, and I'm continuing that now. The game's going on right now. I haven't even turned it on. I actually forgot about the game for most parts of today. And until a couple of times throughout the day, I've been reminded, like one guy came up to me and said, hey, what do you think? Alabama's a 9-point favorite tonight. I kind of forgot all about it. Then I'll go on Twitter and I'll see somebody post a poll. Who do you think's going to win? And that's about it. Other than that, I forget about it. But, I mean, teams like us and these G5 schools that we feel like we're getting shafted and we're not allowed in the process, we got to find some kind of way to make our voice heard. And if we're still going to tune into these games and we're still going to attend these games and we're still going to give them all the money and revenue they get from it, why would they change it? So the way I see it is I pay with my viewership and my money and my dollars. I don't attend these games. I don't watch the games. And if there were more people like me, UCF fans and schools like Cincinnati fans and all the other G5 schools, if we banded together and said, we're not going to watch this crap until you fix it, maybe something would get done. So if you're watching the college football championship game tonight and you're a UCF fan and you're always yelling about the system and this needs to be changed, and well, you're to blame too, and you're a cow. You're the cow of the week this week in my eyes.
28-17 Bama right now, so not covering that, not covering that 9-point spread, Mike. Yes, I read today again. This is the only sport that the NCAA doesn't actually declare a champion. It's kind of this made up situation here. So we'll see how it goes. My cow of the week, Mike. I've got. I went through a couple different options. I'd love to do a political thing because that one guy who took the lectern went to USF. That just feels like an easy one, but I don't really want to do the whole politics stuff and get everyone all kind of riled up. That's kind of not where we want to go. Obviously, the NFL playoffs are here, Mike. So I have maybe an unpopular cow of the week, and I saw this trending all over Twitter yesterday, and so I tried it for a little bit, and it just wasn't me, Mike. Did you see that the Bears-Saints game was also being simulcast? A whole different broadcast was being conducted on Nickelodeon, and it included like slime graphics and like these whole new different things and gizmos on the players' eyes and whatnot. Everybody said they loved it, so I was like, let me try this on. So I turned it on for a few minutes, Mike. I hated it. It was there was slime in the end zone. It was annoying. Like, I understand the announcers were trying to, gear the conversation towards kids, but I mean, I just didn't like it. I don't know. Everyone else said it was great, but I was watching it like, if it was real slime, then I would have been into it. But it was just basically fake graphics on the screen and whatnot. And I hate when they do this. They're doing it with the championship game too that you're not watching right now. They have like the second channel where it's the mega cast, where it's the coaches talking about what they do, and then it's the third channel, which is the coaches talking about what the coaches are talking about on the other channel. Then they have the one where it's the sky camera, where it's just flying over the play. Like, just give me, I feel like I'm a Greg Cody back in my day. Just give me the game. Like, I don't need the slime graphics. I don't need the coaches talking about the other coaches talking about what other coaches did. Just give me the game. If I don't like the announcers, I'll turn the volume off or I won't watch the game. But I guess maybe for kids it was a good thing, Mike, but I could not get into that Nickelodeon broadcast. And it seemed like everybody else loved it, and I'm the only man in America that hated it.
You are the first person I've heard say a bad thing about it.
I know I am. I know.
I didn't watch it at all. I actually didn't watch any of that game at all, not even on CBS. But I had heard about it. I heard everybody's reviews and everybody was raving about it, how it was so cool. And I saw a highlight on Twitter where I think it was a Latavius Murray touchdown and they slammed him there in the end zone. So, I mean, if you just want the game, then tune into CBS, I guess.
I did.
I understand why they do it. And, people talk about baseball and how the average fan of Major League Baseball is, 55 years old or something, and it's an older demographic. Well, the NFL tried something new, and they're trying to attack the younger audience and get them hooked. And I think it would turn out to be a pretty good idea on their part. So maybe you didn't like it, but I think you're the only one.
I might be, yeah.
If it bothered you, and it's not like that was the only way to watch a game. Because it was funny, last weekend, I've talked about it, my friend that's a Browns fan, we were talking when the Browns finally made the playoffs and the schedule hadn't come out yet. And he goes, what's going to happen, right? The Browns finally make the playoffs for the first time. And he said, there's a game on Nickelodeon. They're going to stick us on Nickelodeon. I was like, that cannot be the only way it's on. They couldn't have just had the game on Nickelodeon. And it wasn't. They are also on CBS. But for a second there, he was like, I'm telling you, I saw the thing came out today, and it said the game's on Nickelodeon. I didn't know what to believe. And that would have been hilarious, by the way.
That would have been hilarious. Actually, Ricky's got to be like head over heels today. Holy shit.
Oh, my God. Yeah, he's going nuts today. Even though they were up 4 touchdowns in the first quarter, and he was still nervous the whole way because I went to bed at halftime, but apparently the Steelers cut it to 12 in the third quarter.
I didn't see the whole thing either, but yeah, they got outscored in the second half pretty good. But here's to me, I feel like it's a bait and switch because sure, if your kid watched that or you tuned into it and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Well, guess what? There's games on this weekend, and you know what? They don't have slime. They're back to the regular game. So if you got your kid, you're like, hey man, remember how football was on last weekend and we watched it? It was great. Well, hey, it's on this weekend. Well, great, Dad. Let's watch it together. Boom! You turn on Tony Romo, Jim Nantz, and they're like, where's the slime? Well, actually, son, the slime isn't for every game. It's just I want the slime. If there's no slime, I don't want to watch this. So it's really kind of a bait and switch. It's like you date a girl and she's got a wig on and she looks all well and good, and then like the next time you see her, she looks different. You're like, wait, that's not the girl I was dating last time. It's a bait and switch. So I don't know what you get out of that deal, other than another touchdown by Alabama, by the way.
Did they have separate announcers too?
Yeah.
They had kid announcers doing that?
Well, it was Nate Burleson and 2 other people whose names I don't know. I think it was Ian Eagle's son, actually, and some maybe Nickelodeon star I'd never heard of. But yeah, they were doing very simplistic, like on this. Well, see right here, you can't touch that person because if you do, that means it's offsides. That's an unfair advantage. Like they were doing, doing some teaching, I think, during the game, which was interesting, which was cool. But again, it's bait and switch to me because you're not going to get the slime game every time. Now, if you want to throw a real slime on Latavius Murray after a touchdown, I'm all in on that, baby.
Well, maybe they're just experimenting. Maybe next year, now you'll see a package of 8 games on Nickelodeon and get kids hooked on it that way.
Can your kids?
Were you a fan of the?
Hold on, you have kids, right? Will your kids sit for a 4-hour football game?
No.
God no. I don't care if it's
no
I don't care if it's Nickelodeon or not, though. They're not. No one's sitting through a 4-hour football game.
When I was 8 years old, I did.
Oh, that's good.
I watched. I was hooked.
You're a special kind of guy. To answer your question, I did enjoy the streaking hockey puck. I did think that was a good idea.
All right, but you don't like the slime.
Nah, too much. We're doing too much.
Look, I'll take you one step further. When I was 8 years old, the Giants weren't on every week. You only got the local games. My dad would either have to take me to a bar or something to watch the Giants game, or I'd have to listen on the radio for they would go to stadium by stadium. Oh, we're 10 minutes to go here in the first quarter. The Giants are up 3-0, and then they kick it over and say, oh, we're here in Buffalo, and it's the first quarter. And I would listen to that for 4 hours just to get updates on the Giants every 10, 15 minutes.
I remember driving back
that's how I was as an 8-year-old.
I remember driving back from Orlando to South Florida when we were in college, and that's the only way. Like if you were driving, on a Sunday, just head back to UCF. That's the only way you could listen to games. Like the ESPN radio had like the whip around where they would go to the stadium. They'd be like, Bob, we're here at Buffalo, and it was like, that's the only way you could hear games because you would get either the crappy Tampa Bay or Jacksonville games on. Again, I understand they want to try something new, but sometimes they're just doing too much. We're just doing too much.
I don't know, man. I think you're out.
I'm outnumbered on this one. I feel like this is a Mike. I feel like this is I switch roles with you. This is UCF Mike take because I feel like this would be you. I don't want my sports any different. Get off my lawn. I feel like I'm infringing on your territory.
Hey, if this was the only way they broadcasted the game,
okay.
Oh yeah, I'd be all over it. If this is how they did it on CBS, or the game was only on Nickelodeon and it was my team, I'd be pissed.
Okay, fair enough.
But one, I didn't watch any of it, so I guess it didn't bother me. And two, if you didn't want to watch it, there was still the regular way of watching it. So I see why they did it, just to get the kids involved. So yeah, something. At least they're trying to get a younger demographic in there. I wonder if baseball is going to try something similar now that they see the success they had with it. Really.
Yeah, they need to. Actually, they're probably the audience that need. I feel like the people will watch the NFL no matter what, but baseball, who knows? But well, all right, those are kind of the weeks. I mean, I guess I'll stand on this island alone here. Actually, I really want to go with the guy who stole the lectern, but I didn't think that was a good political choice here. We're trying to stay apolitical around these parts, but that guy certainly probably Cow of the Week worthy as well. But hey, Mike, another good show in the books. Every week we're like, what do we have to talk about? And 2 hours later, we got a full show for everybody. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Again, we take great pride. We're one of the only podcasts out there, Mike. Every week we're back giving you content. Other folks are taking some time off and maybe inconsistent with their release schedules. Set your watches, friends. Sons of UCF every week, no matter what's going on. We are here for you. So make sure you take care of us. If you want to subscribe, rate, review, 5 stars for the show, we'd love that. Make sure you tell your friend or two if they're not into UCF. Make sure you tell them a little bit about our show. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll always be back to give you what we know. And there's still some stuff happening around. So, Mike, I'm sure we'll keep our ears to the ground, and we will return at some point to share what we know.
That's right. And you know what we need to do now? I keep forgetting. Let's do some contests. Let's get rid of one of these Sons of UCF hats. I still have a few of them laying around. And if the guy is listening, Daryl, who won our pick'em thing, I apologize. I still haven't. I keep forgetting to mail his hat. I'm going to send it. I haven't forgotten about you. But,
it's like you did forget about him, actually.
I remember it like every night or whatever. And then by the time I leave in the morning, I forget them. I'm at the office. I'm like, oh, man, I forgot the guy's hat again. But I can get rid of a few more. So you want to run a contest? What do you want to do for a contest?
Well,
I would have said
we should probably have done this earlier in the show, right? Except for the very end.
Yeah, we don't have to decide now. Maybe we can work something in with the Super Bowl or something, picks or run one of these pools. I don't know. We'll figure something out because I know those hats are in high demand. Everybody wants one of those things. We only have a few left to give away. We'll run some kind of contest and give them away. So stay tuned for that, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or listening to this show every week. Stay in touch with the Sons of UCF, and we'll find a way to get you one of these cool hats.
He's not the best pitch man in the business for nothing, my friends. We will be back and better than ever next week. Until then, everybody go Knights.
Charge on.